it is. Don't let the upbeat banjo music fool you. Fucking hate my job.
Welcome
It's
inside.
just me and Macon and Tanner and Reed, because Nate and Matt, fucking Matt, who's a gambling addict, takes one to know one, but he plays the card games. He was like, "Hey, came up to me a couple of weeks ago. Hey, I'm really sorry. BetMGM needs me and Nate to go up to Atlantic City to do this poker tournament. So we won't be present in a couple Fridays for Wild Card Weekend, one of the biggest shows of the season. We're just going to be up there jacking off and playing cards." Are they on this Zoom?
Matt is in the chat. Yes,
Matt's in the chat. I woke up this morning, and Matt's like doing selfies with like poker legends. They all look like washed up Nicolas Cage.
Is that how it went down? He said, "I'm sorry, BetMGM needs me."
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, your boss
Right.
decided that your boss wanted you to have less firepower around the office going into Wild Card Weekend. So a little divide and conquer by BetMGM. We were picking too many winners.
Right.
Had to pull Matt and Nate
Spread
up
us
to
thin.
Atlantic City.
Spread us thin, recoup some of our investment
Exactly.
in the Greenlight Pod.
Exactly. What did I say just a minute ago?
Oh, you said you were going to quit?
No, I didn't say I was going to quit. I didn't say I was going to quit. I have one of those motivational quotes. The best way for people to realize your value is to suddenly quit.
Right.
In life. Yeah. If you're not sure people appreciate you, just quit suddenly. Disappear. Yep. They'll appreciate you.
Yep. This is being shown in one field more than any other at the moment, I think, and that is college athletics by head coaches saying no thank you.
Well, it sounded like the Mick Cronin. Mitch Cronin. He's Mitch now.
Yeah.
He got up there and embarrassed all the people that he recruited.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I don't know who these fucking guys are. I just went to their houses and met their parents and asked them what their motivations are. And, there's only – you're a basketball coach, man. You got to recruit like a couple guys a year.
Yeah, 3. My favorite is Jim Larrañaga.
Yeah.
Who developed the swirly over the N in his last name
Pilbay.
when he went down to Miami. Didn't have it his entire life before then. But he was the first to pay, say, Nigel Pack $800,000 per annum to play a season of basketball at Miami. And they went to a Final Four because of it. And then everybody else started doing it. And he was like, whoa, let's pump the brakes on this NIL business.
Enough on this.
I'm out now that we're 4-5.
That's why Saban's at the desk now.
Bill Belichick, you know?
No, Bill ran to the NIL culture.
Yeah, he went back.
Didn't go back
to coaching.
Yeah. But no. The Mick Cronin thing, that was, I totally understand what he's saying. I went on this rant on Rich Eisen's show. I won't go on another rant on Rich Eisen's show about Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. Rich had me on and he lobbed me the Tyreek Hill question off the bat. Today, there's just so many quitters in sports. It just and now Drew Rosenhaus is trying to put the fire out on that thing so he can get a trade done at some point, right?
Walk it back.
Hey, if the plan was, hey, we're going to get you out of here, buddy. Part of the plan was not like setting the press conference on fire immediately after the game that ended your season. I'm pretty sure this is damage control. I don't think he wants to be in Miami.
Or have the
he already said
video of Jalen Waddle saying, "Hey,
you done, Cheetah?
Done?
Cheetah, you done?"
Done? Middle of the third quarter in Week 18 of a must-win game.
And my point, which inevitably, I think the most frustrating thing about doing this job now is you make a point and people just don't get it. And maybe that's on me for not making the point succinctly enough or directly enough. But I'm not going to be the guy in the media that gets on a soapbox and gets dramatic about a Tyreek Hill thing when we in sports media got what we asked for. We've been talking about player empowerment for years and I use the word progressivism in sports. I don't mean progressive Rich and those guys, when they signed me off, they were like, okay, now Chris is going to go do an anti-woke podcast. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot. I did this fucking thing for free. And now you're miscasting me as something I'm not. But I think the thing is, like, we've been railing on the system for years. And, yeah, there's stuff wrong with the system. But that doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater and there's just no loyalty in sports. Like, and I think there's an inevitability in college sports especially where the system's broken and it has to be fixed through a bunch of trial and error and a bunch of, mishaps to where people like me who were all about player mobility or players getting paid might be like, yeah, it's a little much, the NIL thing at times, or, hey, the transfer portal's completely out of control. And I feel like now it's almost like even the most progressive of us in the sports world are saying pump the brakes. Well, what do you expect in pro athletics? Like we've been talking about how unfair it is for NFL players, and it is. Like the CBA is fucked up. Players not getting guaranteed money's fucked up. The whole thing's fucked up. It is the one major sport like it. Owners make off with way too much of the loot at the end of the day. But like, that doesn't mean that one of the richest guys in the NFL shouldn't have to play out his contract. And like you go on a show like Rich Eisen's and they're like, Chris, how do you feel if you're one of his teammates? Well, I'm fucking not, And so I would ask one of his teammates how they feel, because as a media member, I'm not going to get up here and bear the flag for the offended and the outrage, because I'm not, because sports are here now. Like it didn't happen overnight. The Tyreek Hill thing is just like, what do you want me to do? I said to Rich, I go, next year, we're all going to be sitting here talking about how fun it is to watch Cheetah in Washington or something like that, right? Unless you're going to sit there next year and like protest talking about him making plays for his next team, then everybody shut the fuck up. Seriously. Do I think he's a quitter? Yeah, I think he's a quitter. Do I think it's shameful to be a captain and say something like that after the game? Yeah. Am I one of his teammates? No. Go ask one of his teammates. I'm just like, what do people expect? Like, oh, that's unforgivable. No, it's not. We're going to forgive him. He can't do that. Yes, he can. Somebody's going to trade for him.
And plenty of teams won't, because he's this kind of character.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Loose cannon. Loyalty is he called into question?
He
trying to mimic Antonio Brown.
The Antonio Brown, but like when AB did that, there's a reason AB is one of the most popular people on the internet, because that's the way. Today, it's like there's no rules. You can do whatever the fuck you want, and that's the way it is. And so, as a media member, I'm not going to sit up here and be all like soapboxy and be like, oh, it's shameful what you did, Tyreek. And you know what? Yeah, it's a little fucked up, juxtaposed to our reaction to the guy in San Francisco, who we were like, I've never seen anything like that before. I think there's a subtlety in the whole thing. Like, time of tape the other day, I didn't realize that Cheetah had quit like in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's still bad of a multiple score game against the Jets. I mean, like, you've had enough. But, that guy, the Devondre Campbell, didn't even want to go in the game in a must-win like a month ago. Whatever it is, like, the reality is baked in that Devondre Campbell's not good enough to do that. Like, Devondre Campbell might not play again.
Yeah. Right.
Tyreek Hill's going to play again.
Yeah.
And baked into that analysis tells you everything you need to know, that in today's society, it really doesn't matter what you do. It just matters how good you are at what you're doing. And that's going to define how many second chances you get and what you can and can't do.
Is it the NFL moving toward player empowerment combined with a cultural thing? The millennials, who's younger than us? Gen Z?
Whatever the generation is. Like, I sound like every generation before the next generation when I'm like, I think we're fucked.
Back in my day.
But, my generation was full of quitters too. It just, we didn't give them as much leeway.
Well, and you went through the proper channels.
You went through the proper channels before quitting. I can remember as a freshman at Virginia, I wanted to transfer.
Yeah.
I didn't like the defense we were running, wasn't happy. But transferring at that point meant a totally different thing. So it was kind of like off the table for me. And everything works out in the end. Like, things aren't perfect, but they work out. They don't work out for everybody, but it worked out for me. And, like juxtaposed to now where it's just like you can do whatever you want. The Carson Beck thing, it sounds like he's already figured out where he's going, right?
Yeah, sounds like he'd rather take more money playing for the University of Miami than third-round money for the Miami Dolphins.
Which is smart. And I think certain positions like quarterback, because there's only one that plays, like you understand that there's a certain standard that might be different than for other position players. And is that fair? Maybe not. But like I understand why a quarterback might move around, right? Because, you get into camp, they got a guy they bring in that they want to play, like you're fucked.
With college sports, I am just so buoyed by the fact that the entity figuring this out is the United States government.
Yeah, they've figured everything else out, haven't they?
I suspect swift and good corrective action.
But in summation, all I'm saying is, and to anybody that, like, I do go on the Rich Eisen show every couple of weeks, but like, I end up sounding like somebody I'm not, like an old man yelling at the cloud, because like I'm just not going to be the guy to sit up here and be the mascot for being anti-Tyreek Hill. I'm not. I'm not excusing the quitting. It is quitting. But like, come on, we're all going to move on. Unless you're not, just raise your hand if you're not in the media, and then I'm going to hold you to that next year when he's playing in prime time and you're reading his highlights.
Well, I thought this is who he was too. Like,
quitter down the seam. Like, that's what I want to hear next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, come on, dude. The guy left Kansas City because, winning wasn't enough, and now not winning isn't enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is the grass is greener on the other side thing always. And people grow and people change, and you might have realized that, hell, the grass wasn't greener on the other side. Imagine that. But there are proper channels, to your point. But try telling that to somebody who's 30 plus years old now. And, I mentioned this the other day, like, the guy's got a growing family. I'm not being funny. I'm not taking a shot at Tyreek. Like, Phillip Rivers had a big family. Phillip Rivers probably want to squeeze every last dollar out of his career, right?
Yeah.
Like when the conversion van.
And spend more time out of the house.
Yeah, spend more time out of the house. Like you want to keep. Because I remember there was something about Tyreek said like he might not play much longer. And now it seems like he might play a while longer. And I think part of it is he wants to get one more contract. And part of it is like, and I understand this part, but there was a better way to go about it, right? Like, and I think this would be Drew Rosenhaus's point, like to him in private is, okay, the quarterback, when he's healthy, he can rack you up some yardage, but he's not healthy. He wasn't healthy half the year, so you're catching the ball from guys like Snoop Huntley and in the past Skylar Thompson and stuff like that. And I do believe Tyreek wants to win. It's just you can't quit. You can't quit. You know how many times I wanted to quit when I played for the St. Louis Rams? Now, I don't mean to project my experiences onto the current situation, but that's all I have to go off of, and it is quitting. But I'm not going to get up here and scream.
Do you want me to talk to Rich about paying you some money for these appearances?
He was paying me in the past, but this year I'm not doing it regularly. You know what I mean? So, I was doing it every week, and now I'm like, hey, just call me and have me on. You know what I mean?
Spot starters get paid too.
I don't.
Middle relievers get paid.
Do you know what I want to do?
Huh?
I want to throw my cell phone away. I walked out the door today. I've been talking about it for a long time. I think I'm going to shut down my cell phone today.
You used to, a handful of times, 3 or 4 times you've changed your number, but you haven't in a very long time.
I'm going to change my number to an email today.
Yeah. Okay.
I think.
All right.
Do you think I could pull that off?
No, I don't.
What? Why?
In part because it's the mechanism by which you gamble on sports.
No, I can gamble at a computer.
You can do text messages on a laptop as well. Have you figured that out?
I can tell Kingston to put if I could do iMessage, I'd be straight.
Yeah.
I'm getting a landline.
Right. Is that done?
Not done yet. So.
Okay. Still trenching.
Somebody said throw it on DND. Golly.
You are on DND.
I am on DND. I've been on DND for a couple weeks. Somebody told me that.
Whenever I send you a message, it says delivered quietly.
Wouldn't know how to change that. Get a flip phone. I'm thinking about it. And I like going on Rich's show. My point is, like, I'm just so fucking tired of talking about these abstract issues in the NFL. You know what I love doing? I love it when there's a game and I can sit down and tell you what happened in the game. That's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing. Like the opinion pieces, I just get so tired of. You know what I mean?
I do.
So,
Matt Roth.
how about an opinion on the Antonio Pierce firing? Let's do that next.
Right.
Seriously. What were you going to say, Matt Roth said?
Matt Roth in the chat said, if you get a landline, you might have to get a life alert as well.
Yeah, I'm not that old yet. But I am getting there. I'm going to be 40 coming up. By the way, I was supposed to go to the Rams game. I was asked to be the legend of the game.
Nice. Congrats.
Which sounds so cool to kids. That's all that matters. Like, hey, boys are coming. We're going to go to the LA Rams game. You might meet Aaron Donald. You know, we're going to be on the field. I'm going to be a legend of the game. That sounds like, quite honestly, I was better than I was. And the kids get all excited, and we're ready to go in the whole thing. And the West Coast is on fire, so we're not going to that game. They move it to Arizona.
Yeah,
which
terrible.
Is maybe the first thing we should talk about is like what happens in the event that a game like that gets moved. I know it's going to be Monday night and it might be the last game we're going to talk about, but there's really nothing the NFL can do in that scenario. Like it's the right thing to do. That's a hellscape there. I mean, like that city it's in bad shape. Seriously. I mean, like you guys have seen all the videos. Everybody's seen the videos. Palisades are just leveled. It looks like there was no town there.
Yeah, it looks completely different.
Like, how can you play a game, not just with the air quality, but with the, like, quite literally the combustibility of the whole situation, which is like an ember can go for a 2-mile ride and all of a sudden you got a new fire. And, like, 3 new fires popped up yesterday. So, like, as bad as it is for Rams fans and it sucks, like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, it kind of would have been a bad look.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I was surprised. I was surprised it took that long. I mean, you know, with the evacuations underway, like how you gonna, you know, send teams flying there, you know, in those conditions. So
yeah, I mean the flying, and then like look at like the Rams who were on the practice field and like smoke started appearing like over the hill and people are like running off the field and shit, calling their families. Like that's just not a. That's not. And honestly, from a mindset standpoint, you know, there's no way to, hypothetically, if there were no fire, obviously you'd like to play at home. But playing at home can also create some tension. You know, like there's a lot of people that have access to you. You know, you might have a bunch of family in town. Like it helps to play at home the day of the game when there's crowd noise. You're able to operate better than the other team. Like you're in your element, you're in your routine. But it also can kind of like nag at you a little bit to have a home playoff game the whole week. You know, think about it. People are coming in town. People are asking you for tickets. You got to coordinate this. You got to coordinate that. Even when you're at the team hotel, you're not really away, right?
And SoFi is notorious for not having that much
the best
of a
home field advantage.
And now you get a little chip on your shoulder. Oh, we got to go play a neutral site game after we earned the higher seed.
I'm not trying to pacify Rams fans. It sucks. I mean, it's bad luck, but some things are bigger than football, right? That city's not going to be there forever.
Yeah. Well, now there are reports of bad actors setting fires to get people out of their homes to steal some stuff.
Right.
It's no good.
So I just sending out prayers for anybody who's in that area. Like we definitely know a lot of people in the business of football and also just people in general that live out there. And, you know, everybody's frightened, man. I can remember being in Montana one year when we had a big fire and, you know, it wasn't as impactful, right? Like, you know, I think 15, 20 homes lost along the lake and that sort of thing. But I can remember Russillo was actually in town and we went to the Garden Bar. There were some fires off in the distance and it was affecting the AQ, but that was about it. And like nowadays, you know, like a fire is kind of part of the deal if you're out west. Like if it doesn't rain for, in the case of LA, it was like what, like 8 months, no rain or something, like, and they get those winds. Same thing in the summer in Montana where it's just like it'll be dry forever. there's a lightning storm, and I'm sitting out on my porch watching every lightning strike hit, and I'm like, fuck, man, like tomorrow morning you're gonna see a little smoke. Lightning will hit a tree, and it'll be a couple days later, and all of a sudden, like, something will pop up. So we go to the garden bar, thinking like, oh, it's just regular. We have forest fires every summer now. And it's 1 a.m. and we're having the time of our lives. And my wife calls me. It's like, hey, the fire jumped the interstate, the road there. And you guys got to come home. They're talking about evacuating the point because we're on a point. And so we started booking it back home. We had a driver, obviously. And the driver pulls up to, because you can't get cabs in Montana, and the driver pulls up to what looks like Dante's Inferno or one of these fucking backdraft movies. Like the fire has jumped the road, and there's big mountains. It's the Mission Mountains. It's there's one single 2-lane road that goes north-south along the lake, and then you'd have to drive all the way around this 26-mile lake if that's blocked. Well, it was blocked. We had to drive all the way around it. And they had started evacuating. I woke up in the morning. It was 98 degrees outside. There's helicopters everywhere. The power is cut, so there's no AC. I've got like the kids on the ground. I'm sweating my ass off. I got the worst hangover I've ever had. Like top 5 hangover. Ryan's in the trailer. I got to go kick the trailer, get the door open, and be like, we got to go, bro. It was chaos. It was really scary, man. Like those people, and that's like our cabin, man. Like, and, I'm just imagining being in my home, like, and watching smoke billow over the mountain, and all of a sudden, like, that thing can change like that. Like, you got to get out and you got to leave, and you can't take anything with you. Like, I saw a 90-something-year-old guy on the news, like, I lost everything. Like, I'm going to start over, but I lost everything. And you think about, like, growing up in Palisades, like, that you don't even have a hometown anymore, like a little home.
Flurry's wife is from Palisades. They got married out there. Church is gone. I can't fathom losing a home, but that's one thing.
The home is one thing.
But now, like, kids don't have their school.
Community.
People don't have their places of business. People don't have stores to go to. Like, it's not like you can just go back and rebuild a home. It's all wiped out.
Yeah, what are you going to go rebuild your home in the middle of, like, a square mile of rubble?
Right.
The shots of the Palisades, the aerial shots, are ridiculous.
And I'm sure environmental concerns, issues for years to come, too, right there.
Wait, what environmental concerns?
Well, I don't think you can just,
I know.
start tomorrow
I know.
building a home on something that's just been burned down.
So my heart goes out to anybody out there, but also just to reinforce, like, I know it sucks to not get a home game, but, like, what do you want them to do? And Rams fans will travel well. I think there's a lot of Rams fans in that region of the country, and hopefully they travel well, and it feels like a home game for those guys. We'll break down the game in just a bit. We're going to go through the wild card games piece by piece. But before that, let's talk about the Antonio Pierce deal. Listen, I was surprised he was fired. I guess I'm never surprised, but I actually thought he had a shot. One of the weirdest things when Schefter gets up there and says he leans safe on Sunday, and then he's not safe at all. Like a couple days later, that means Tom Brady's involved.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That means the Patriot way is in motion, which means he's not talking to anybody about anything.
Yep.
And I do think he has a lot of pull there. You think about owners,
Right.
how easily influenced they are. You know what I mean? You think about the isolation of being an owner. It's self-isolation, a lot of it, but you don't have a lot of real friends. Like you feel like people around you don't like you for you. You're like incredibly rich. You're not in circles where anybody's acting normal around you. Like you're just fucking. You're like a damn mascot. It's crazy. I'm not saying I feel sorry for them. They got more money than God, but like they definitely socially live a weird life where when it comes time to really connect with people and take their advice and like, you know, that there is an obvious sense of like, well, is this person even telling me the truth?
Yeah.
But I think owners are very impressionable.
Well, especially when you've got Brady walking in with 7 rings.
Well, I know, and I think that is why like he might be the most influential person in the owner circle in this hiring cycle, period.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I think if you're thinking about this hire, you're thinking about who would Tom Brady hire? Because I don't want to be naive, but I think it might come down to that.
Yeah.
Which is pretty.
Right.
It's pretty cool, and I think it's also a good thing. We can't sit here and lament like all the bad owners in pro sports, right? Like, and all, the way owners hold back franchises,
Right.
and then not be excited about the fact that maybe one of the best players of all time is helping handpick a coach.
Right.
You know, it just doesn't happen that much.
No. Do you think Brady? Obviously, this would be a conflict of interest with his announcing, but would he be a GM candidate?
Wow, is this true in the chat? Watson tore his Achilles again.
There were reports of
They
a
have reported there's
setback.
a setback. Yeah.
Jeez.
Any relief
Yep.
on that contract, Nolan? If we have an injury,
I'm sure there are some clauses in there. Hopefully that'll come out today. I don't know what the specifics are.
Somebody said that news came out 2 days ago. Not the news that he tore his Achilles, Jake Thornton, because I didn't see
was 10
that.
minutes ago.
So yeah, I mean, listen, Antonio, if you're a Raiders fan, you might feel like, hey, listen, us national media members, we can get on our soapboxes all we want about, like, listen, do I think it was unfair what happened to Mayo? Listen, it's more than fair to get a head coaching job when you've only been coaching for 4 or 5 years. That's more than fair to get the opportunity, but wrapped in getting the opportunity is like you're fucked if it doesn't work out, and it's most likely that's not going to work out when you don't invest in the team in free agency or anything. I think Robert Kraft's been open about the fact that it was a mistake, but all the same, like, he can move on from that mistake, hire Mike Vrabel, hire one of his old friends, give it another shot. Like, Gerard Mayo now has to go back and like live with that chapter. And while financially it was probably a good opportunity for him, and like in the way of like scratching a lottery ticket, it was probably a good opportunity for him. But it does stick with that coach, and if he wanted to get another shot in 5-10 years, it's like people are going to compare the opportunity that's upcoming to the opportunity that he quote unquote failed at in New England. And it's another black coach that and I go into the cycle and I'm thinking, damn, like, he didn't get fired because he's black. He didn't. I know Robert Kraft. That's not what he intended to do. It has nothing to do with race, but yet a lot of these coaches keep getting these shitty opportunities, and I think the Raiders would qualify as a shitty opportunity this year. No quarterback to speak of, roster with a lot of holes in it, not a cash fluid team, and quite frankly, the last couple hires have all been disasters, right? Outside of Bisaccia, who looked like he knew what he was doing, and they let him go. So, I feel bad for Antonio Pierce. You could probably say, if you're a Raiders fan, hey, I watched every game. I'm on the message boards. I live this shit. He wasn't good enough. And that might be fair, but it still sucks. I mean, like, not every coaching opportunity is the same. And I think when you look at like who would be interested in this Raiders job, Tom Brady's most of what you have going for you, right? Like, I think the dominoes in this cycle go as follows. Like, best offensive coach is going to get one of two jobs, Chicago or New England. In my opinion, the best offensive coach, the best coach, is not going to rush down to Jacksonville to be in an arranged marriage with that quarterback and that GM. Like, no thanks. And that owner who's had 7 head coaches in the 12 to 14 years that he's owned the team. No, I don't think so. New Orleans is in cap hell. No, I don't think so. That job's going to go to like a culture guy or something. New England, you've got an exciting young quarterback. You have a ton of cap space. You have a ton of draft picks. That division,
you only got to beat Buffalo. The other two teams, might not or aren't there right now. Obviously, the Jets are in phase for rebuild, and then the Dolphins are kind of in a purgatory situation.
Yeah, and listen, like, the Bills are a good team, right? But part of the reason we talk about the MVP as being close is, like, I don't think the team's that good. The quarterback is fantastic. They got like DeMar Hamlin playing safety. No offense. They don't have a number one wide receiver, really. The offensive line's really good. They've got some pieces here and there, but like from a roster quality standpoint, it's not the best in the league. We were in camp with the Bills, and it's more of a credit to what they've done and the quarterback and the coaches. But it's not like going to Kansas, the AFC West with the Raiders being the same division as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and what they built there and the defensive coordinator and Spags and that sort of thing. So I think the best two offensive coaches probably land in, one of two places. And I don't know where you would put like Liam Cohen in that mix but obviously number one hottest name is Ben Johnson. Whatever Ben Johnson wants to do, that's probably going to be New England or Chicago. We would think, unless there's some curveball coming up. So I think that Vegas is probably going to have to settle for an offensive mind that's not at the top of the list or a culture guy.
What didn't it come out yesterday that Ben Johnson did say yes to a virtual meeting with Vegas?
Oh yeah, you get a chance to go interview with Tom Brady.
Well, virtually. I don't think they can meet in person.
You get to virtually meet with Tom Brady. Also, anytime you take an interview, like there are interviews that are fake from the coaches and the organization's end, right? That we know this. The organization will just call people in to interview them. They'll do like Oppo research. They'll try to figure out like what's wrong with our program, which is why even if you don't think you're going to hire Ben Johnson and you're Robert Kraft and you're hell-bent on Mike Vrabel, you have Ben Johnson and you ask him like, how would you fix what do you believe is the most important thing in coaching a quarterback? What do you think is the most important thing in marrying concepts between, pass and run, and like what are your pillars of play action pass? Like just make him give you the game, right?
I read a terribly undertoned and unfortunately probably accurate article yesterday about the Patriot search, which essentially said the Pats have interviewed Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton, therefore they have filled their Rooney Rule requirement and are now free to hire their head coach.
Free to hire their head coach.
It was terrible.
No, I know.
Oh, it was gross. But they said also look for Leftwich and Hamilton to potentially be offensive coordinator candidates for the new head coach. It was wild.
Just a formality.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people get so bent out of shape about this stuff. I mean, there's some young people now that are like, what do you mean? There's all types of black coaches and yada, yada, yada. But like, it was a long road for black coaches. Like even a couple years ago, it was a lot more bleak at time. And I think there's been a lot of improvements to the system, but like there's some things you can't get around. Like you put the Rooney Rule in, it's still imperfect. Like you can see these people just kind of like hopscotching over it, dude. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, my point is Vegas is probably not going to get the hottest commodity from an offensive mind standpoint, but you have a better chance of going out and get a culture guy. Like I think Brian Flores should coach again.
Yeah.
With the way Tom knows Brian Flores, like, again, I don't know Tom anymore. Like, I knew Tom back in the day. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. Not that he would tell me anything, but I'm just saying B-Flow would seem like, if I was guessing, like a guy that he really respects. And if he can't get the best offensive mind, and another thing is, you don't know who you're going to draft in Vegas. You don't know what quarterback is going to be there for you. You don't know what quarterback is going to be. That could be something that's prohibitive for a certain guy. Like maybe a guy's like, I don't like any of the fucking quarterbacks in this draft. Like let somebody else coach Shedeur Sanders or, Ward, or like, I don't love these guys.
Do you think a guy like Sean Payton could do what he's done? I'm not saying he's a candidate for this job. Could do what he's done in Vegas, what he's done this year in Denver. Because Denver was at 12. People didn't like Bo Nix, coming off not a lot of wins.
Not a lot of Sean Paytons out there.
And they've looked excellent. I'm saying if you put Sean Payton in Vegas with the number 6 overall pick, do you think it could be that type of turnaround in Vegas?
Yes, I also think Sean called his shot, man. Sean was like, I love Bo Nix. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't hedge. He was like, I fucking love this guy. He was watch. And everybody was like, okay.
The Raiders also have a very different cap situation than
the Raiders have a different cap situation.
And no Patrick Surtain. And
that's right. But Ross Howard and Michael Mayer,
like, listen,
two great offensive linemen that they drafted this past season.
No question. You got somebody like Max Crosby, who, I would love to see him retire a Raider on top. You know, like he's just the quintessential Raider. But at some point, if these rebuilds keep happening, like you are going to look at like what you can get for a Max Crosby because he's still a dog, dude, and people will still pay a premium for a guy like that. So it is kind of like a reboot, I feel like. And sometimes a culture guy can lead a reboot pretty well. Like, right, maybe it's Vrabel. Maybe it's Vrabel. Maybe it's not Liam Cohen. You know, like Liam Cohen, let's say Liam Cohen fell. Tom Brady didn't seem to love the way the organization ran in Tampa. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady seemed to be like a second coach. Like he had to play bad cop a lot because he was like, this isn't the way things go. Like I'm from New England where it gets done a certain way and it's just not being done this way. Even though Tampa's had a lot of success, I think also that's one of the things that New England guys have a hard time with is like, probably Bill included, is like there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like your way works really well. Of course it did. You know, but you can't thumb your nose at everybody else's way of doing things. But I do think the Liam Cohen thing popped in my head, and I was like, you know what, though? But if he's been in Tampa, I think Tom almost looks at that as a negative, right? I think Tom wants a culture guy or like a dark horse. How about like a dark horse offensive mind? You know what I mean? Like watch him hire Mike Kafka.
Yeah.
Because he knows Brian Dable.
Arizona guy.
I don't know.
Can you define what you mean by culture guy?
Yeah, more defense.
And like Dan Campbell mold.
Dan Campbell mold, possibly. Could be a position, a special teams coach, you know, like a Harbaugh.
And could Brady's presence be a detriment to a culture type guy? Hey, I want to come in and put my own acronyms on the side of the wall. I don't want a great big presence.
No, because I don't think Brady's presence, you just know Brady's in there moving. Since Brady came in there and they had the spread of like the charcuterie and the sushi and the 500 people in the atrium when he walked in and it looked like they had like a party. Since that moment, like he's kind of been working behind the scenes. Like you hear him on TV calling games, but I don't think he's going to. I think Tom's smart enough to stay out of the way and be tactful. It's inevitable that his influence is going to get out in the reporting, but I would imagine he would want either a culture guy or the best available offensive guy. And the thing that I worry about with the best available offensive guy is like maybe nobody wants to go to Vegas when you have these other opportunities. And how deep is this class of coaches when it comes to offensive minds? Like how often is it that there's 4 good offensive hires in a cycle? Because that's probably what you're up against.
Yeah.
Like if you're an offensive coach, give me the destinations you would pick in order.
Yeah, you said it. New England, Chicago, I guess Jacksonville.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess.
Maybe. But maybe you're in love with a guy like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or something like that.
But you're not at 1.
You're not at 1, so you've got to give up capital to get there. I don't know.
If you're not in love with one of those guys at the top of the one of those QB guys, and you'd rather not give up capital, does it make sense to go try for see what Zach Wilson can do, see Trey Lance, maybe make a trade for Joe Milton since he played well the other day, even give a shot to Justin Fields?
That's a lot of yuck.
And do that over trying one of these guys and then move to 2026 where you've got Arch Manning and maybe some other.
Arch is spoken for, but go ahead.
I feel. I don't think the spinning the wheel on the veteran quarterback thing is the way to go.
Not for a shot.
No.
Sam Darnold.
Not unless you're in love with somebody.
Yeah,
but you know what Sam Darnold walked into?
Right. Like one of the best.
You got Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Naylor. You got Aaron Jones. You got, when the season started, you had 2 good tackles, the best play caller in the game, one of the best play callers in the game, who's made everybody look competent. You know, and I'm not taking anything away from Sam. I said it myself the other day. Like, Sam has shown what he's capable of in a good situation, and I think that should make him a commodity going forward. Like, maybe it ends up being Sam Darnold. Maybe it ends up being somebody like that because, like, maybe he flops in the playoffs. But if he flops in the playoffs, you think Tom wants him?
No.
If you're the Vikings, don't you want to go into the next season with Sam and JJ? People keep saying you get rid of Sam or JJ. Don't you want to tag Sam and keep JJ on his rookie deal?
I would think so.
right?
I would think so.
That's the insurance policy.
And then you've got leverage because you can always get more for somebody in the middle of the season, I feel like.
Yeah.
When there's an emergency. You know? So I don't know what's going to happen in Vegas, but I do think Tom has a big I don't have hey, I think it's going to be this guy, but it's fun to talk about what you think he might do. You know, the reason I throw out Kafka is because he's coached under Dable. And I do still think Tom, although he's not Bill, wants to trust the guy or at least have some degree of separation where he can make a call and say, hey, you worked with this guy. I trust you. What's this guy like?
Here's an acronym. Brady.
How about Sark?
B Raider all day, y'all. And then here's a coach, Joe Brady. Bang, bang, bang. There's your synergy. Tom Brady hires Joe Brady.
Here's the problem with Joe Brady.
Josh Allen said he's terrible, though.
I know. Josh Allen says terrible. That's the problem with Joe Brady.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
But Joe Brady's been Joe Brady wasn't this name. Now, he was the name coming out of LSU, right? And I like Joe Brady. And I happen to think he's pretty good. But is this going to be enough for Tom when Tom's like, okay, you've been coaching this fucking mutant for the last year and you just had to not fuck it up, right?
He at LSU he was with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So 2 mutants.
He's led a charmed life.
Yeah.
You know, and in the middle of it he had to go to Carolina and put in his time. But this is going to be an interesting decision because another thing we said is hey, you're going to join a division with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and that sort of thing,
and Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh. That's murderer's row. Yeah.
Is this the least desirable job?
Maybe so.
We just talk ourselves out of the Raiders job?
Hey.
Can you call the Raiders and tell them I don't want the job? No, don't call them.
Oh, because of the whole Howie thing?
No, because I just think it'll slow down the show.
Okay. We are at breakneck pace at the moment.
Well,
hey,
that
counterpoint.
Was pretty funny when you called the Lions.
Counterpoint, the uniforms.
Yeah, the uniforms are great.
They're sick.
Hasn't helped them in eons. They haven't changed those suckers in a while. So, I don't know. Anyways, what's next? We got to talk about
games.
Let's talk about the games, huh?
Chargers. We can start right at the top. Chargers, Texans.
Why don't we do that?
Game.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we start with the Saturday game, huh, Reed? Listen, I think what's interesting about this game, Make, is whatever quarterback wins this game, they're overcoming a lot. I think that's what it's a big narrative game. Okay, CJ Stroud goes out there, stinks it up, loses the game. There's a lot of people that, rightfully so, would point out the fact that he's regressed this year. I know why he's regressed. There's a lot of people that probably were married to a take that he wasn't the guy. You know, it's still early in his career. People still feel like they can win that argument. You know, it's going to be a big narrative game if he loses that game. I know it's only year 2, but that hasn't stopped anybody before from being like, oh, this guy can't win the big one. Or, you know, even though probably the best ball he played was in the playoff, right? That's why he got drafted where he got drafted.
Well, even if they lose, isn't it, hey, let us reset next year with healthy players? Nico.
Oh, I think there's a lot of
Stephon, and then the offensive line has been bad.
I think there's a lot of bad faith arguers out there. And I'm on the side of listen, I know why he's struggling. He's looking down at the rush, and who wouldn't after 16, 17 weeks of this thing? He's not seasoned enough for you to throw this at him. He was incredible last year. You know, the run game cooled as the year went on. You talked about the Tank Dell injury. You talked about the Diggs injury. Okay, he has not played well this year. And he's one of those guys I'm pretty confident in saying is going to get back to a high level of play. But you lose a game like this, people start talking. Then there's a lot of pressure on you next time you get in the playoffs. You know, then you're talking about your third game. And for Justin Herbert, obviously, and I think what's so interesting about Herbert is there's a lot of people that really don't want this guy to succeed. Again, quarterback is the most polarizing topic in almost sports media, period, other than fucking Kobe and LeBron or MJ and LeBron. It's always quarterbacks, and I feel like The Justin Herbert can't win the big one, hasn't won the big one, the 27-0 game. If he doesn't win this game, people are going to be all over him. And I got to say, whoever loses this game, I'm not going to get up here on Monday unless they play poorly and blame them. Because both these quarterbacks have a lot to overcome. We've talked about it all year with Justin Herbert. Not only was he playing hurt a lot of the year, I think he got healthy as the year went on, but throwing to Lab McConkey, and then outside that, the occasional big game from Quentin Johnson, right? You've got guys like Will Dissly, Josh Palmer's down with a foot.
Yep.
You're playing against a Texans group that is going to be fast. They're going to rush the passer at home. This is the first game that Azeez Al-Shaair and Christian Harris have been on the field at the same time this year. That, to me, makes this team a little more dangerous than they were two weeks ago, at least at home, right? They don't allow a lot of completions. Both these teams defensively force some of the most incompletions in the league. It's going to be challenging for both these groups offensively, both these quarterbacks, and whoever wins really overcame a lot. And the guy that lost, I almost can't blame him. Now, if they play like shit, I'm going to get up here on Monday and tell you that. But, I really do believe this could be one of those lower-scoring games. I mean, where it's the guy that makes the turnover. It's the guy that forces the turnovers. It's who's ever rushing it there. And I really do believe that while I like the Texans' back end in this matchup, I might like the Chargers' pass rush against the Texans' offensive line even more. And look back at the Green Bay game. Look back at a number of games this year for the Texans. They have given up more free runner pressures than almost anybody in the league. And they can't sort a game. They've had trouble up front all season long. Shaq Mason's down, right? They've had to move people around. You had to rely on Fisher at tackle. There's only so much an offense can overcome, and especially when the run game isn't getting going the way it looked like it might earlier in the season. If I'm the Chargers, I know a lot of the weeks they could probably say, and if they win this game next week, they should say, hey, we got to rush 4 and win because we're playing Mahomes. But this week, it's double mugs. It's 6 to 8 guys on the line of scrimmage. It's Derwin James hanging around in the box. It's
heat them up.
It's games. It's make them sort this shit and actually pick up a protection. Pick up a blitz, set a protection, sort a game. I want to make sure you can do that before I do anything else. And so I think that's the big matchup. If you want to watch a matchup in this game, it's that offensive line against the Chargers front seven, really, and Minter and whatever he's got cooking defensively. And then on the other side, I really do think it's the skill guys, man. And the tackles against the ends are going to be a lot of fun. Like Slater, big fella for Joe
Alt,
who's done a really nice job this year for the most part. Those two ends are hell on wheels, man. That's going to be a fun matchup. And it looks like Fatukasi and Autry are coming back this week, unless something's changed. I think the big one for me was the Chargers injuries. Rashawn Slater was shut down in warmups before Vegas last week with a knee. They sent him for an MRI, and he's been back this week, so that's a big, thank goodness. Denzel Perryman, who I think is a big part of that defense, also a full participant this week. He had missed some time. Nico Collins, where's his matchup? Who does he line up on? Did I see Still as doubtful?
Let me see. Let me check that. I saw that. Oh, I think it's Jasir Taylor.
Taylor was doubtful. Was doubtful, and
so who covers Ladd? Is
Lassiter?
Lassiter or Stingley? Lassiter.
Or it could be Stingley. They were writing it up like it could be Lassiter because of the Georgia Bulldogs
teammates.
Teammates connection thing. It was so funny. They were like, hey, Kamari, he's faster than he looks, huh? And Kamari was like, he's definitely faster than he looks. And he was like, but he doesn't even look slow. Like he was trying to duck and dodge the deceptive speed question. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Does Stingley travel with Ladd, like in a game like this where you don't really have a great number 2? Like, I don't know.
All right, explain ball. Can you explain some ball?
Sure, maybe.
Why does too high coverage bother C.J. Stroud?
I think it probably forces you to be patient. You know,
he doesn't have that sort of time.
I don't think he has that kind of time.
Yeah,
I don't think he has that kind of time. I think he can make all the throws. He can make the throws in the honey hole there, or what have you. I mean, but like, if you don't have that kind of time, and now you've got one guy that can really go get it, and Nico Collins, like, and the run game hasn't been great. You think about running people out of too high. They haven't been able to do it. So, I don't know.
Jesse Minter coached Nico Collins in Michigan. Might have a little something.
That's interesting.
To slow him down.
Yeah.
In addition to the rushing the hell out of the rush.
Well, we'll see. I mean, like the Nico Collins matchup is kind of what the game comes down to for them offensively, like Dalton Schultz and Nico Collins, and mixing out of the backfield if you can get them the ball. But, like, they're so depleted, man. Like I said, this would be a big win if either of these groups could come up with it. And, if we're writing the script for, like, at the end of the day, after this game, whichever team wins, the defense is probably going to play really well.
If Houston's 14-3 and a 2 seed next year, are they playing Saturday at 4:30?
You talking about Houston? Well, they've liked these whatever spots they've been in. They're like 5-2 in wild card games. I read.
NRG just can't get off a Saturday afternoon for Super Wild Card weekend.
But you know what? It ain't the worst thing, because if you get through it, you got more time. Maybe.
Yeah.
You never know. Depending on how they schedule the next round. And you know what? Sometimes it's nice to hit rock bottom before the playoffs start. They're kind of doing the opposite of, like, when teams are undefeated and you're like, yeah, you want to lose before you want to lose to the Ravens like by 40 before the postseason. You get your toughest week of practice out of the way. Hey, they made them play against Tennessee, right? That almost felt like vindictive. Like, hey, show me that you guys are still serious.
Well, and they had
about football.
Their best drive of the year, that first drive.
Yep.
Stroud was 6 of 6, and that at least has to give them some
confidence,
some kind of something.
You got to break them down and build them up.
You don't want to be the Steelers losing 4 in a row.
You don't want to lose 4 straight. You got to get that Titans game in there. But that's a dynamic segue, mate.
Thank you.
Dynamic segue.
Thank you.
As I pop another pillow in. Saturday
night, the Baltimore Ravens host division rival Pittsburgh.
I'm excited about this game. I said a couple weeks ago that I don't take the Steelers seriously in the playoffs, and I don't. I don't think they're winning a Super Bowl. If the Steelers win a Super Bowl, I'll take my clothes off and I'll walk from here out onto the mall all the way down.
That's illegal.
Well, I'm going to jail.
Okay.
But it ain't going to happen because they're not going to win the damn Super Bowl.
But you're committed to that.
Yeah, if they win the Super Bowl, I'll walk down the mall naked.
Okay. All right. Okay.
They're not going to win the Super Bowl.
I agree with you, but I'm glad there's some stakes at stake here.
I don't want to do it either. It's cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I wait till the summertime?
I don't know. I think it needs to be paid before the parade happens.
Yeah, Kyle still owes us a tattoo from a couple years ago.
Yeah, $180 too.
He owes you $180.
Yeah, remember when the Browns in Week 10 beat whoever the hell?
You want to speak into the camera, and maybe Kyle's in the chat.
Kyle Long, you owe me $300, 120 of which you have paid.
You
that
motherfucker,
leaves a remainder of $180 from a Cleveland Brown Week 10 win approximately 2 seasons ago. You bitch you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Guy never carry cash. All right, man.
He probably carries cash.
You got my thing.
Yeah. Well, so the point I was making is while I'm not serious about the Steelers like winning 3-4 games this February, I'm talking myself into this being a game.
All righty. All right.
I can tell you're on the other side.
Well,
maybe going to give out the Ravens in the gambling show coming up.
I'm not committed
Why
to
don't
that.
we just put our cards on the table? How are we doing the gambling show?
I think there are enough sides out there to do it like we always do it.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
If you wanted to add one more wild card where you could do whatever the hell you want, that's fine.
Yeah, that might be fun. We'll talk about it because we got to shoot this right after this.
Mm-hmm.
But
the one I love.
You guys get to turn this shit off. I got to keep living it.
The only one I love, you already mentioned, is Houston LA under. I don't know where I am on this one. Zay Flowers doesn't make me feel better about Baltimore.
Listen, I'll just take you through my notes here. First off, if somebody were to ask me last Sunday or Saturday morning before that Browns game, who's the team to beat in the AFC, which is the dumbest question ever. But people ask it. Like, if you're asking me who's playing the best right now in the AFC, these guys, the Ravens have a case to make. Like, I'll tell you when they're not playing great, and Ravens fans will, man, they're the cryingest bunch. But I'll tell you when they're playing well. They're playing really well right now. I love what I've seen from the Ravens. And as much as you know me, I want rooting for the Bills and rooting for Josh and the whole thing. Like, love Lamar too, and I'd love to see him shed this playoff narrative that's kind of gone around on him and has quite frankly been like a hot topic. You know, he's got to win some games and like more than one game in this playoff to shed that narrative. Like he's got to get to the AFC Championship and play better than last year. Like, I would think they'd have to lose a shootout in the AFC Championship to lose on this side of the Super Bowl and this narrative to go away.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it'd have to be like a Josh Allen, Kansas City type game a couple years. Fair or not. But I think this group's playing as well as anybody. Scoring margin versus playoff teams this season via Paul Hembo. This is from an Adam Schefter tweet. You see how I no, not really. You see how I attribute?
Yeah.
Like with the best of them?
Yep.
Scoring margin versus playoff teams this season, Baltimore plus 112. Detroit plus 36.
Wow.
Now, of course, a lot of that is the Gods team blowout and the Buffalo blowout, but there have been some blowouts. Like, they've blown some teams out, like some good teams. Detroit plus 36, Philly plus 29, Tampa plus 26, Denver plus 3, Kansas City plus 4, Minnesota minus 3, Buffalo minus 15, Green Bay minus 15, Rams minus 16, Pittsburgh minus 30. You want to know what Houston's is? Minus 66.
Yikes.
So Baltimore has done really well in spots against good teams. And the way they had it going, I felt really good. But I'm worried about the Zay Flowers thing. I don't know how long he's going to be out. Nobody does. But he's going to be out this weekend. And it kind of makes me wonder how Deontay Johnson's feeling right about now. If you could have just stuck it out, you might be getting a big workload this weekend. He might feel like, hey, I hope they lose, and I'm proved right. You guys needed me. But nobody wins in that scenario. I was going to give him a best seat because he's watching the Steelers and the Ravens, and they both probably could use him. But it's not best seat. It might be worst seat because neither of them won him. But they don't have Zay Flowers, which I think obviously affects the way they throw the football. Screen game, man separation. Steelers play a lot of man. They might play even more man. They might blitz more. Good luck blitzing Lamar, right? But he wasn't hit. Two worst games he played against the blitz this year. Buffalo, ironically, even though they kicked the doors down in that game, and then the first Pittsburgh matchup. And so, you might see a Steelers defense that has a shot of like hope coming in this game where, especially if the weather's a little ugly, maybe it's a situation where they can kind of keep the explosives down, because that's really what the Ravens have done such a good job of. And I think ultimately if you're in that defensive room, it's like, hey, we need 13 hats to the football. I don't know where you're going to find the other two, but go find them. We need to find, like, the whole fucking team needs to be on Derrick Henry when he touches the football, because I think that's what this game comes down to. I think the fact that you can put JPJ on Bateman is probably a good thing, right? And Minkah Fitzpatrick in the middle of the field, like you feel pretty good about that. It's going to come down to the run game. Like, don't forget the fact that the Steelers have frustrated the Ravens in 6 of the 8 last games they played. So you can't ignore that trend. As bad as they look, this is a team 6 weeks ago that we were saying, hey, this is the best version of the Steelers we've seen post Ben Roethlisberger. That's still in there. But watching that second game back between these two teams, the first thing I noticed was Russell Wilson was in a hurry. He was just in a hurry. The pick he threw, the pick six, you got to remember this team was, 24-17, Nolan, in the beginning of the fourth? They had 2 opportunities in plus territory down a touchdown, the Steelers did. In my brain, that game felt like no contest after that fumble because, when Russ was in the red zone, tucked it and pulled it down. I felt like that's where they lost the division, right? Because you can't play a team like the Ravens from behind. But they still were in that game with multiple opportunities down to score in plus territory, and Russ broke the pocket and rushed and threw a pick six. He was in a hurry the whole game. That, to me, is the biggest thing they have to take care of is the play at quarterback. And I think a lot of that comes down to the middle push. This team has dogs in the middle. Baltimore has some big guys in the middle. Pierce, Matabike, the other fucking guy, I can't think of him, Jones. They've all been really good, and they've been good in this matchup, those guys in the middle. Caving the middle of the pocket, like Russell Wilson, if you want to rush him well, you got to rush the middle of the pocket. And I think that's a lot of the reason. Baltimore has smart, crafty edge guys, so when you try to move the pocket, they're going to be on you quick. Kyle Van Noy is really smart. They'll run games. But more than anything, I think the big guys in the middle hold the keys to their destiny. If they can, McCormick, who was on the injury report and had a really rough game in matchup 2, Sayamalu, Frazier, those guys got to take care of those big 3 guys in the middle. I actually saw in that game some opportunities to get the ball run on these guys, but when you're playing from behind, you can't play that script. Some gap scheme runs, that sort of thing. So I do think Pittsburgh has a chance to muddy it up, but the safeties have to play really well for them. And like I said, Russ was in a hurry all day. Got to take care of the big guys in the middle. I think the biggest path to victory they have is play action pass. And it is attacking Malik Harrison. And you just spilled your water.
It's a bad spill.
So that to me that's the game for them. If you can block the guys in the middle, get the run game going enough where you can get some play action shots going. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. When you got great safeties and guys in the middle of the field, like Kyle Hamilton moving back to safety is a big one for the Ravens. We talked about that a lot. When you have those guys, like, I don't know how good I feel about throwing deep balls in the middle of the field, right? You got to do your work outside the numbers. George Pickens has to have a huge game. Maybe I'm selling Steelers fans hope, but I feel like it could be a game, only because it's really hard to lose a receiver like Zay Flowers and a week later go play an opponent who really knows you well.
24th in the league in yak yards for Zay Flowers.
And I'm talking about the cover, not the win more than anything. I don't know if the Steelers are going to win this game, but that was a lot of points. Go ahead.
No other Raven is close in terms of yards after catch. I think Bateman can do a Zay Flowers impression. The tight ends are great, and you got Derrick Henry and Lamar, and you're probably going to be just fine. If I'm Roger Rosengarten, I think like early first quarter to TJ Watt, I'm like, hey, man, I'm a nobody, but I'm hoping to get your jersey after. Just totally take TJ out of it.
Just take the air out of it.
Like either you have to be a nice guy right now, TJ, or a jerk.
Because that's the thing I feel about, like, contrary to popular belief, Myles Garrett is a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, we all saw the helmet thing, but he is such a nice guy. Like, did you watch him? Like, you obviously saw that soundbite. That's why you're saying it. But, like, people at home might not have seen it. Rosengarten last week said just what Megan said. He was like, hey, I'm a nobody, but can I get your jersey? And Miles was like, you're not a nobody. You're doing great.
Yep.
That doesn't mean Miles ain't going to kill you when the whistle blows, right? But TJ just seems like he's in chunky soup commercial mode, like, the whole time.
Yeah, he'd be like,
Right, bro. Like, maybe that's a really good strategy.
Yeah.
You could even throw in, hey, I don't know if you saw, Miles gave me his jersey last week, so if you want to do me a solid.
Hey, man, you're having a really great start to this game, and I'm a nobody, but
You're having a great start to this game. 3 sacks in the first quarter. But that's it. And, it leads me to my next point is turnovers. They have to, in the second matchup, or the first matchup, the reason they won that game was forcing turnovers. And it wasn't like, and Baltimore's played sloppy at times this year with the penalties and that sort of thing. And penalties were a part of that first game. But the turnovers, Highsmith, Herbig, the backer, Wilson, kind of putting the arm bar in there and playing the ball on a wheel to Justice Hill, where it's like that's all them taking the ball away. None of those turnovers were like, and they never got Derrick Henry going, which I think when they look at that tape and they say, I don't know if it was the fact that he fumbled early or he was just kind of out of it or they just did a better job, but Henry never got going. Look at the playoffs last year. Henry never got going. They never let him get going against the Chiefs. That is why they brought him in. This game and the Eagles game, between the two of these running backs, you're going to get 60-plus carries. There's a reason they rested Saquon last week in Philly. It isn't to give him 15 carries this week, and especially with the quarterback coming off concussion protocol. And there's a reason that you have Derrick Henry, especially with Zay Flowers down. We're going to find out, if I'm the Ravens, if we really commit to this big motherfucker, can you get him down? And as an analyst, I wish there was a lot of like fancy things I could say about the X's and O's in this matchup, but it might come down to that for the Steelers. And in my opinion, the precision, the rush lanes, look at the way the Eagles rushed Lamar Jackson. Watch that tape. Those guys were not only able to contain him, but affect him. That's got to be what they do, and they have to force turnovers.
37 degrees is the high, 26 is the low. It will be clear on Saturday night in Baltimore.
And I actually typed this into my notes, but then I realized you can't say that in the football world anymore. I said, 11 hats to the football on Derrick Henry. He's the head of the snake. Can't say that. I don't mean hurt the guy. I just mean if you take care of Derrick Henry, it's going to be a tougher game for Lamar Jackson down his best man separator.
Chance of snow also in this game.
You just said clear, Cowboy. Which is it?
Clear during the day.
There with a chance of snow.
Clear with a chance of snow.
No, I think the snow is mostly, it could be on the ground for the matchup, but I don't think it's going to be falling is what it looked like to me.
Okay.
But then again, I can't get anything right on my weather app. I got caught in a fucking lightning storm on New Year's Eve. I was in the woods. I ran 2 miles in boots, running away from a lightning storm New Year's Eve back at Sugar Hollow. Me and my
You're trying to outrun the lightning?
No, not outrun. You can't outrun the lightning, but you can outrun the lightning clouds.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Storm clouds.
Yeah. Hey, you know who's playing well?
That's some deep shit.
Thanks to Kyle Hamilton, who's starting to play pretty well.
Who?
Cornerback Nate Wiggins.
Oh, Wiggins has played really well
Baltimore.
this year.
Yeah, good player.
Quietly.
Yeah.
Because, Quinyon got a lot of attention in Defensive Rookie of the Year race and the whole thing, but Wiggins, statistically has been great. Watching film of Kyle Hamilton is just, it's just so fun. Like, even when he does,
Unreal.
he don't even have to make a big play. Like, he looks like Slender Man out there, like your worst nightmare. His shin angle to be so long and to get his shin angle down to what it is, like just to close on a play. He's playing at a different speed than anybody on the field.
Yeah. He's like Gumby running 4-4.
Yeah, dude.
Bad intentions, instinctive.
Mean Gumby.
In a good mood because of Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's probably in a good mood because of Notre Dame.
A lot of things going for Kyle Hamilton.
And Humphreys played really well. Like he's playing. He's at the top of his game right now. So I think the Ravens are as good as anybody in the playoffs, but the one wrinkle for me is they're playing the guy that knows them the best and has played them the toughest. And the game that might make you think all that's over, I felt like Pittsburgh tricked it off. Like they really did in that second game. Like Russ going hero ball in the red zone, and he just wasn't the same the rest of the day. He was just pressing. He was pressing. He was in a hurry. And I think this is a big one. Arthur Smith saying, hey, it's a burn the ships game. Like he said, burn the boats. It's ships. Burn the ships game. We might see Justin Fields in the red zone. we might see Justin Fields in the red zone. We might see some packages for him. Like, we might see more Justin Fields than you thought we'd see. And I think that would just make for a lot of drama. Like, can you imagine if Fields had to play a big role in this game?
Future Raiders quarterback Justin Fields, led by Joe Brady. Ownership Tom Brady.
You know, there's an acronym there.
Yeah, be Raider all day, y'all.
Culture.
Hey, I know a lot of media types like Dr. Fax and Kingston mail it in at times, but if any of y'all wondered if C. Long was committed to the cause here, I watched you at a basketball game. I don't know if you saw any of the basketball because your eyes were straight down watching Ravens Browns on your telephone.
I was sitting
in the front row.
I was sitting in the front row at Virginia, and who was it?
Who knows?
It
Louisville?
was NC State.
I think Louisville.
Louisville. It was a red team.
Yeah.
And I certainly care about those basketball guys, but I was watching the game.
You were indeed. And King Henry, I believe, waited until the fourth quarter to get that anytime touchdown.
Yeah, and I had a 2 touchdown bet with him.
Ooh, came through.
Yeah, I put the phone away in the fourth quarter. Because the basketball game had ended and we were walking to our car. No. Don't get me wrong. I'm not picking the Steelers. At the end of the show, maybe I'll pick each game, but I do think you gotta watch out. You better watch out.
Look out.
You gotta look out, because this game isn't what you thought it might be 3 weeks ago. If you'd have said, "Hey, these teams are going to play each other," I do think. And another thing is, in a low-scoring game, can Justin Tucker? Because this is the type of game that Tomlin's going to want to play. He's going to want to play a low-scoring game. Can Justin Tucker deliver?
Justin Tucker less than signed Chris Boswell.
Totally, especially in the weather at this juncture. It's amazing how fast things can change.
Yep.
But yeah, that's something too.
Hey, I just flipped the script. T.J. Watt, big sack, pause. Roger Rosengarten on the ground.
Yeah.
Just fucking nobody. And then Rogers in his head.
Yeah.
The entire game.
I kind of like that.
All right. Could go either way here.
No idea. Also, Dan Moore. Did I read this correctly? Dan Moore's given up 10 sacks since week 10.
That's a lot.
I could find out.
That's not good.
Dan.
Also, another thing I heard out of Pittsburgh is from Ray Fittipaldo from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He's a beat writer.
Fittipaldo?
Yeah, he said this on 93.7 The Fan.
Mm-hmm.
Attribution king here. Skill guys want the ball in their hands, and it's not happening. You know, the pleas are falling on deaf ears. Maybe the playoffs will break tendencies and start throwing the ball more. People in the locker room want more responsibility on their shoulders. And I think more than anything, you talk about the passing game. By the way, Steelers have not led since they beat the Browns.
Jeez.
It's another thing I read. It's crazy. You talk about a team limping in the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff game since what year? Anybody?
08?
No.
20...
What?
Wasn't that
Hey,
the
Britt
last-
Van Winkle.
He said 08.
Was it like mid-2010s?
Yeah. It was like 10 years ago. It was like 8-10 years ago. I don't think they've won a playoff game since 16. I don't think they've won a playoff game since I was in the league.
All right.
When was the last time the Steelers won a playoff game?
I got
It
you.
would have been 2016 when
Yeah.
we went to the conference.
Yeah, and then they got thumped by my Pats.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking
36-17.
Alejandro Villanueva held me. He tackled me. Otherwise, I would have had a sack in that game. I'll cut him some slack because he's an Army Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Support the troops.
Yep.
Got held by the troops. You know? But the whole thing for me is you talk about like the passing game. A lot of dink and dunk, a lot of shots, but where are the intermediate chunks? You know, who's going to win at the intermediate level of defense? So that's why I think like a Calvin Austin has to have a big game. Big game. Can't just be Freiermuth. All right. BetMGM has made betting easy and seamless all year, season long. Hopefully you've been able to pick up some plays from us to use on the BetMGM app. And this weekend, BetMGM is giving you the chance to win up to $250,000 in bonus bets. Wow. That's a lot. It's all part of BetMGM's longest touchdown jackpot, where you'll be able to split the grand prize with anyone else who bet on the longest touchdown of the week. It's easy to get started. Log into your BetMGM account and opt into the promo. Then place an anytime touchdown wager of $10 or more on the player of your choice, up to one player per game. If your player scores the longest touchdown of the week, you'll win a share of the $250,000. Be sure to take advantage of this offer. And remember, use bonus code GREENLIGHT when you sign up to get a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Happy hunting.
Well done there.
And
you turned out of the cod.
Yeah, cod.
The pothole there that they put for you.
Cod pothole. It's not cod, it's a fucking code.
COD
not
was
a
written on
flaky
the
white
screen.
fish.
Supposed to be CODE, and Chris navigated it with the plum.
No problem.
Professional.
Now, does that sound like a guy with CTE? Not at all. Now, when I threw the remote control against the wall this morning because the TV wasn't working, trying to turn on a DVR of a game while I was riding the exercise bike, it wouldn't turn on. Remote's fine.
Yeah.
Nothing like thinking you broke the remote and being like, do I have an anger problem? And then afterwards, like, get off the bike and go over to the corner where the remote's sitting in three pieces, and it's just the back plate and the batteries, and I'm not even strong enough to break the remote.
Those remotes are resilient.
Very resilient.
What about the wall?
Wall's fine.
Okay.
Wall's fine.
Walls are resilient too. Maybe less resilient than a remote, but.
And did you take anything away from that?
What?
The whole experience. Did you?
I'm too busy.
Well,
Okay.
well, no, the remote was fine. So that's what he said.
What's there to take away? You know? If I broke the remote, maybe I got an anger problem.
Right.
I didn't break the remote.
Right. Right.
Foul.
Broncos, Bills. A little bit of fun here.
No.
Yeah.
No, I want
A
to
lot
talk
of
about
fun.
something else first.
All right.
I saw a movie this week.
Broncos, Bills, right? Wrong.
Mm-hmm. I saw a Nicolas Cage movie this week
Oh, yeah.
called Long Legs.
Oh.
Have you heard of this
no.
movie?
Uh-uh.
Have any of you guys heard of this movie?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
So I downloaded the movie not thinking it, knowing Nicolas Cage was in it, and Nicolas Cage is the bad guy. It's a serial killer movie about the occult, and he is fucking terrifying in the movie.
Really?
Until
Are there spoilers here?
Until you remind yourself that it is Nicolas Cage. Like, he really did a great job in this movie, and it's really well produced. Anybody in the chat seen Long Legs? It's fucking spooky.
I have.
Somebody said
respect for
awful
the
movie.
dollar.
I didn't think it was awful. I thought it was decent. But it was definitely like, hey, Nicolas Cage, what do you want to do with this movie? And he just did whatever he wanted. And he made himself the bad guy. It's worth seeing for anybody in the chat. Go check
Mubs
out.
in the chat said great movie.
Okay, somebody said awful movie. Somebody
Yep.
said great movie.
Rotten
Movie
Tomatoes
looks
is
so
85%.
Yeah, well, what the fuck do you know?
Yo,
Rod?
Yo, Longlegs was awesome.
Long Legs was
that
great.
goth
How
guy.
about that? Hey, y'all in the chat, how about the opening scene of that movie? Where he walks up in the beginning? That had to be one of the spookiest moments in a movie that I've seen as of late.
SDNAT, he stole the Declaration of Independence in the Longlegs precursor.
Yeah, and then he started drawing all sorts of Ouija board stuff on it. Because this movie's all about the occult.
My favorite Nick Cage movie, Raising Arizona.
You ever seen The Rock?
I don't know.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
The movie with Sean Connery?
No, I haven't then.
You have not seen The Rock.
Mm-mm.
It's a great movie.
Everybody else seen The Rock here?
Yeah.
Tanner, you haven't seen The Rock? Oh, you need to go see The Rock.
Tanner
Oh,
hasn't seen
I
a lot
didn't-
of
Yeah,
movies.
I haven't seen most movies.
Yeah, but he's...
You're all excited for him to see it. You just
Well, you're not going to see
chastised-
it.
Yeah, that's fair as fuck.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Con Air.
Yep.
Yeah,
Con Air.
People mentioning Con Air
Con Air. Good
with
film.
the bunny in the box.
Very good film.
Guy's got range.
He does.
You want
respect
you
for
want
the
you want
dollar.
to try to do Broncos Bills again?
No, I don't. I want to talk about the AP All Pro teams. that came out.
I heard Lane Johnson got snubbed.
Lane Johnson is not on this.
Yeah,
Not on
if
this
Lane
list.
Johnson's not on the list, and I know he's my friend, but there has not been a tackle. Is this not a passing league?
It is.
Okay, who's the best pass blocking tackle in the NFL?
Apparently, Tristan Wirfs.
You can say Tristan Wirfs is up there, but there's two of them on the team.
Penei Sewell.
He's not better than Lane. He ain't better than Lane. I cannot believe he got snubbed from this team.
He is on the second team.
Cool. Zoom in on the first team All-Pro there.
Lamar is at quarterback.
Okay.
Saquon, Patrick Ricard, Brock Bowers. Wide receivers are Jamar
How about
Chase.
being Patrick Ricard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
Cam
being the
Brate
hottest
actually-
chick in Antarctica.
Cam Brate talked about this with Bo the other day. There's 6 fullbacks in the league. Patrick Ricard is getting AP.
It's like a monopoly, dude.
Yep.
Guys I still love Patrick Ricard, former D lineman. That's what happens when you
Friend of the program.
friend of the program. We love Pat Ricard,
He might be in the chat.
hottest chick in Antarctica.
Wide receivers Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay.
Offensive lineman Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, Joe Thuney left guard, Creed Humphrey center, Quinn Miners right guard, and Penei Sewell at right tackle.
Now, let's look at the second team. You got the second team.
Second team.
Second
Well,
team
on
offense.
defense.
Oh
On
yeah, let me
defense
see
real
the defense.
fast.
Let me see the defense.
Miles Garrett,
Okay.
Trey
I
Hendrickson,
never
Cam
heard that.
Hayward, and Chris Jones are your D line. Zach Bond, Fred Warner, Roquan Smith. PS2.
Roquan made it.
Roquan made it. PS2, Derek Stingley Jr.
Hold on a
and
second. Who are the linebackers?
Zach Bond, Fred Warner, Roquan Smith.
I guess He
Your
didn't have his
second
best
team
year.
there are Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Zaire Franklin. Second team
Yeah,
Packers.
then probably we're okay. Although Luvu's had a great year.
Mhm.
Luvu's had a great year.
Continue with your corners, Cowboy.
How about Cam Hayward getting on this list?
Yeah.
At his age,
He's, was he
Incredible.
34?
dude, he's like a bison.
35.
When you see a bison out there with like spit on their little bison beard, and it's like there's smoke billowing off them because it's so cold, and they're just like, "Don't fuck with me, I'm a bison." That's kind of what I think about when I watch Cam Hayward play. He's got his beard coming out of the helmet, and he's just like, old? What's old when you can just pick people up and move them? There's no such thing as old when you can just move people out of the way.
Did you see the clip with him and Russ?
No. Oh, what Russ was like, let's go win this next
Let's
one.
go win 4 in a row. Like win the championship.
What goes down must come up.
Yeah. Cam was like, okay.
Did he say okay?
Kind of.
Yeah. Well,
All right. Okay, buddy.
okay. Finish with your all pros.
DBs, PS2, Derek Stingley Jr., Marlon Humphrey, safeties, Kirby Joseph, and Xavier McKinney.
So Kirby Joseph doesn't make a Pro Bowl, but he gets on the All-Pro
Yeah.
team.
First team.
Fucking Pro Bowl, man.
Second team offense,
Whoa! Specialists?
specialist,
Damn.
Brendan Schooler.
Chris Boswell, Jack Fox at punter, kick returner Cavante Turpin from the Cowboys, and punt returner Marvin Mims Jr. From the Denver Broncos. He might be good value for that longest touchdown.
Why don't they have a special teams like at large bid?
They do.
They do?
Special teamer.
Okay, who is it?
Brendan Schooler.
Okay, there we go. I was like, man, he's got to make it.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic.
And a long snapper. Andrew DePaula. Minnesota Vikings.
Good for him.
I want to see the guy who's just crunching tape on the long snapping. Like, look at the revolutions on
Dude,
that one.
I like
That one's straight as an arrow, too.
No, what I want to do is put like the best ball knower on the spot. Just on like have Dan Orlovsky on the program and be like, who do you think was the best long snapper this year? And watch him like,
That's good. Somebody just there with a stopwatch.
No
how quick
idea,
it gets
bro.
back there.
no idea.
He had Shannon Sharp stumbling, though, the other day. I don't know
Oh
if you
yeah, he
saw
did.
that.
He said your brother.
Yeah. He's like, oh, no.
What was the point Shannon Sharp was trying to make?
He was trying to make that the Bengals should have been in because of the fact that they have all these players. You know, it's
I think it was-
ridiculous that they're at home.
It was, you can't tell me the last time a team has done this and then done that. And then he was like, yeah, I can. 92, your brother.
But that's not really a dunk. They tried to make it look like Dan dunked on Shannon. It was just a funny moment where he was
Well,
like,
and then-
actually,
Yeah.
it was your brother.
When Shannon had no response, it was pretty
Yeah.
funny.
But
Yeah.
they weren't on the other end of the argument, were they?
No.
It's just aggregators frame everything like an argument or a dunk.
Right. It was just you can't tell me, and Dan had him.
Dan knows ball.
He knows ball.
He knows ball, bro. Okay, Broncos, Bills. Let's talk about it.
Second team, real fast.
Oh, you know what? Second team.
Second team.
You know, if you're not first, you're last.
That's right. Broncos, Bills.
Nah, look at the second team.
Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown. The line is Jordan Mailata, Quentin Nelson, Frank Ragnow, Chris Lindstrom, and Lane Johnson. Defense, T.J. Watt, Nick Benito, Andrew Van Ginkel, Zach Allen, Jalen Carter, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Zaire Franklin. Corners are Trent McDuffie, Christian Gonzalez, Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton, and Budda Baker. Chris Long don't know Budda Baker.
I don't know who that is.
Specialists, Brandon Aubrey, Logan Cook, Austin Eckler, Khalif Raymond, special teamer J.T. Gray, New Orleans, long snapper Ross Matisic, Jacksonville. Fucking straight as a pen.
Yep. He could really snap that ball.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Broncos, Bills.
Right.
Okay. Somebody pull up the list of rookie quarterbacks maybe making starts in the playoffs. I think I saw a list on StatMuse. You know,
all time.
Whatever you, as of late, at least, you haven't had a lot of guys that when you look at it in retrospect on paper, you were like, yeah, they were going to win that game. Like when you consider who the quarterback was, who they were playing, the coordinator they went in the dance with. I feel like Bo Nix is playing as well as almost any rookie was playing the last couple of years going into the playoffs, right? CJ Stroud was great last year, but like he had Bobby Slowick.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's got Sean Payton. And, Sean Payton and McDermott, I had Nolan go through it over the years. They've had quite the battle back and forth. I mean, you can only take so much from like the Drew Brees era versus Sean McDermott in Carolina. But like they've had some moments, both of them, including last year's game, which I think Denver got the win. Denver got the win on the McDermott. McDermott tried to heat him up late in the game at a bad time and
featured one of the best catches in NFL history with Cortland Sutton at the sideline. Tapping.
Yeah.
Called incomplete. Cortland was like, no. Mm-hmm. Review that. But yeah, you go down.
Maybe the best catch in NFL history.
Yeah, I think so. But you go down. After every week, you're scrolling through social media and you see a new NFL quarterback record that Bo Nix is featured on. Oh, he's the first quarterback with Peyton Manning and this guy and this other group of Hall of Famers.
I don't know if there's a quarterback that's made more people eat crow, and it's not even like. I don't even feel like people feel weird about it because nobody thought Bo Nix would be this.
Mm-mm.
Like, find me somebody who thought besides Sean Payton.
Yeah, really.
And so it's impressive they're here. I think there are.
Can I say something real fast?
Of course.
Macon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall after the NFL draft, you said something about Bo Nix. Would you like to retract what you said?
Depends on what I said. I was just thinking about how I laughed when the pick was made. What did I say exactly?
You said, Cowboy, that's not it.
Oh. Yeah, I'll retract. I retract.
Great.
What did I say?
You said Sean knows. Like, we'll see. Sean knows, though.
Sean knows.
Sean Payton.
No, it ain't about me. It's about Sean Payton because I had no idea. But I give Sean the benefit of the doubt, and this is why this team's going to be very good in the future. I mean, to think about what they've been able to do this year with the dead money situation, with the guys he's throwing to, just they don't have a lot of star power. Mm-hmm. That offensive line's done a very good job.
I mean, one of the best pass blocking in the league. And you see the last couple of weeks we haven't run the ball very much, but the running back's not getting touched till he's 3 yards down the field.
No question. Although they're not a great running team, I do think they could make some hay with these guys inside. For Buffalo, like Buffalo's not a big team. They're not a heavy team in the front. Miners and Powers and those guys up front, maybe they can get some movement. But I think for the most part, this game comes down to conversions for Denver. If they can convert on third down, where the Bills have not been very good the second half of the season, they can keep the ball in their hands and keep it away from Josh Allen. Like the times when I worry about Josh Allen, it's when he's sitting on the bench. You know what I mean? I think about Josh Allen as a guy who gets a little impatient. You know, like for all the good things about Josh Allen, he can get a little impatient. Now, he's been patient this year. He's taking care of the football. But you've been waiting a long time to get back out there and play a playoff game since Bass missed that field goal last year. You know, you want to get going. If Denver can put together some of these long drives early, you know, you do have a defensive line that has the most sacks in the league, and you're playing an offensive line that's given up the least sacks in the league. Aaron Cromer's group's been great. Via NFL on CBS, Attribution King. 2018 Colts and Chiefs, same situation. Most sacks versus least sacks given up. That was the Chiefs. Ended up winning that game. 1996 Cowboys-Panthers. The team with the most sacks got the win. 94 Browns-Steelers. The team with the most sacks got the win. Not a big sample size. Interesting to go back that it's only happened 3 times in NFL history where the leading sack unit and the unit that gives up the least sacks play each other in the playoffs. I do think there's kind of a caveat here, which is when you get there, you got to sack Josh Allen. And for a team that may like their matchups, you know, with Surtain and Moss and, you know, man up and that sort of thing, you got to be careful playing man against Josh Allen. Like, as a defender, we used to know when we were playing a quarterback like Josh Allen, there's only a couple like him, like when you're playing like Cam Newton or a Lamar or somebody that can break the pocket and go. You have to know when you're in man because everybody's back's turned, and that guy can pull the ball and run for, in a lot of cases, a lot of yards. And so I think this is one of those burn the ships games. It's a playoff game. Josh Allen, we've noticed as time has gone on, they've tried to be a little smarter about the way they use him with the ball in his hands. But you can see, like, at the end of the Kansas City game when they absolutely need one and the coverage is right and he finds a lane, he's going to go take the game over with his legs. And so that's a big one.
He went for 70 yards in the 70-plus yards in both playoff games last year, and he's cleared he's 39.5 is his total for the game. He's cleared that in 7 of his 10 career postseason.
Yeah, take the over on that.
Yep.
I mean, like, he's going to tuck the ball and run. They're going to have quarterback run game involved. But I think the number one thing for the Bills, and, you know, I asked no one to look this up because I think it's going to be the key to the game and put some numbers behind it. But Bills' offense is first in the league in EPA when targeting per play when targeting the running back as a receiver, and it's not close. And the Broncos' defense is 27th in the league in EPA per play allowed when the running back is targeted at receiver.
Whew.
So, you know, in a game where if you're the Broncos and you say, hey, we've got this number one corner who's erasing guys, and he's like all everything, it's almost like the Bills have this superpower where they don't have a number one.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead and put him on Cooper. Go ahead and put him on, you know, the kid from Florida State. It doesn't matter, right? Like, we're going to find somebody else. They've been feeding whoever's open, you know, including the backs. You look at, like, that Detroit game, the backs were used like wide receivers early and often. And I think the key for Josh Allen and for the Bills is going to be getting those backs out in the route, which does put you in a bind, right? Like you want to be able to protect. You want guys to be in protection, and you know you want to make room for some pressures and some free runners because this group has got dogs up front, but you want to get these guys out in the route and exploit these linebackers.
It's something that we've struggled with all year, obviously, with the stat you gave. But ever since Alex Singleton went out, our linebacking core has been tough to cover. And we've seen Ray Davis catch bombs.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Ty Johnson catch bombs along the sideline. James Cook catches it out of the backfield and runs for plenty of yards. So it is something that even in addition to all the DBs who are down the field with their backs turned, the linebacking core has to be tight to the line of scrimmage.
No question. You can clear those guys out of there and clear the dance floor for running backs out in the route late in the down. You can also clear the dance floor for him to take off and run with the football. And you talk about, like, if you run verts and you let that running back kind of like late in the down kind of squirt out and sit in the hole, like just wait for the football. Josh running with a full head of steam, run Cook out of the backfield and send him on an out, and all of a sudden you're in a bind if you're in man coverage with that running back and Josh is broken contain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the game that he plays, and he'll be pump faking down the hash.
Yep.
10 yards past the line of scrimmage, he'll just be pump faking.
Yep.
But on the other side, I think McDermott versus Peyton is the big chess match, right? You also have to think Vance Joseph is coaching for an opportunity to get another opportunity.
Yeah.
Like Brady's coaching for an opportunity to get an opportunity. McDermott has to see Nick's bailing versus middle pressure. Everybody sees it, and I think zone coverage, a lot of blitz, and especially affecting the middle of the pocket where Nick seems to be a guy that just wants to bail at this juncture in his career. He might fix that, but his passer rating against pressure is 60. With a clean pocket, it's 101. So I really do think it comes down to the money downs, as I mentioned. And you got to feel good about third and manageable if you are Denver. But you got to get to third and manageable. And you got to avoid guys like Von Miller. It's a revenge game for him. Not a revenge game, but...
On IG, he posted the Wesley Snipes crying.
Did. New Jack City.
Yep.
And it was funny, like... I did see some people that were like, "Who is that guy? What is that? What's that post
about
they
didn't know the
New Jack City meme?
Everybody should know it from Tony Hawk. That's how everybody should know.
Yeah,
At the very least,
the race war thing.
That's one of the greatest things.
Yeah, one of the greatest things for sure.
Where you gave that stat about when the Bills have the ball. How about when the Broncos have the ball? Since week 5, after week 5, Bo Nix has thrown 10 touchdowns, which is second most in the NFL, and averaged 7.7 yards an attempt, ninth most.
That's a Nick 6.
That is a Nick 6. Completed 76.6%, third highest percentage, of his throws against split safety coverage shells.
Yeah.
Buffalo uses that split safety coverage.
No attribution.
Yeah.
Zero attribution.
Yeah, where's your attribution?
Sorry.
Nobody gave me time. Jordan Lopez.
My bad.
At Jordan T. Lopez.
Hey,
of
man,
course.
I want to retract that. Hey, shout out to The Athletic here, Attribution Prince. Bo Nix wasn't even an average quarterback this season. Nix ranked 21st in EPA per dropback and 27th in dropback success rate among qualified quarterbacks.
Huh.
Now, I sure like
playoffs?
using EPA, but I mean, sometimes it's like, all right, man, what I've seen is the guy's played pretty well for a damn rookie.
In the playoffs? Did he make the playoffs?
Yeah, winless so far, pal.
In there as a rookie quarterback with a $90 million anchor on his leg.
I think part of it for them is like, what's their big win?
No, we really haven't had one.
And I think they're going to have some big wins down the line here. Like, I think they're starting something, but so far, I don't know if this version of this team is ready to go do that.
We've had 2 wins against playoff teams in the regular season. Last week, obviously, against the Chiefs backups. And week 3 against the Buccaneers, which was a very different Bucs team than is playing right now. We've lost big to the Ravens, lost to the Steelers. That was even kind of before Russ. Russ hit his kind of stride. The last thing we'll do, I don't know if you want to throw those stickers up.
Maybe.
We got those as a gift from GoBills.com.
Oh, GoBills.com. Thank you.
The homie
Joshua take the wheel.
Bo Gills. Joshua take the wheel.
I like that. And then my other ride is the thrill ride Josh Allen gives me every time he steps onto the football field. Go Bills.
Wow, that size 9 font. If you can read this.
Car accident. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to get a sticker of roller coaster on meth.
Roller coaster on meth.
Now, obviously, that's the old Joshua Allen.
Yeah. And when I met him, I was like, man, I don't know if you ever heard me say that, because I did say that. I was like, but I meant it as a compliment. He was like, sounds like a compliment to me. I was like, man, I'm really glad you took it that way, or taking it that way. All right.
Eagles, Packers.
Should we talk about this game?
Maybe a little bit.
I'm just joking.
Maybe a lot of it. 4:30 on Sunday afternoon. Eagles are 5.5 point favorites.
Why are you taking your ears out?
Well, I gotta pee on deck.
Oh, you got to pee on deck?
And I figure you'll be pretty impassioned about this one.
This is a good time to go.
Being the birds and all.
Yeah, you can go.
I mean, it'll be.
But I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Oh,
you have a prostate problem or something? Because this is going to go more than a minute.
I might.
Okay, we'll see you in a second.
Okay.
Flomax. Look at this guy scurry. He's an all-state tennis player. Seriously.
Really? All-state?
I don't know. I made that up.
Okay. We'll ask him when he gets back.
All right, so I don't know, man. Boy, oh boy, there's a lot to consider in this game. I think the Eagles are the better team, point blank period. You know, like I think the Packers, we just talked about the Broncos hunting quality wins. Like Packers don't have a bunch of them. You know, they have not held up against the best teams in the NFC, and that includes going back to that game in Brazil, which is a totally different game. There's like almost no point to watching that game and figuring out like how this game plays out. Like the way the Eagles defense has developed since that game, I mean they've taken it to the next level. There were guys in the lineup that are not in the lineup anymore. There are guys that will be in the lineup this weekend that were not on the field in that Brazil game, and I think the only constant is, and Jalen had some bad moments in Brazil. Like we got to avoid those, and you know, like if Jalen can avoid those moments coming off cold, like he hasn't played in almost a month, that's a big deal. Like there's going to be people like, what are you worried? I'm not. Again, with the quarterbacks being politics thing, I'm not saying I'm worried about Jalen. I worry about any quarterback coming off a month, you know, not having played, just clearing protocol on a team that starts slow, generally early in the game on offense. Now, Eagles are a better team. They should be able to run the football. They should be able to run inside zone at will. The Packers are one of the worst teams fitting up inside zone. The Eagles, I mean, Saquon Barkley's fresh, the whole thing. I think losing Christian Watson on the other side hurts Green Bay in ways that we might not realize. You talk about it's a group that feasts on the shots and at times can be very frustrating at the intermediate level of the field if you watch them play. Like it's a lot of run game. You know, you listen, you play Vic Fangio. Vic is known for doing one thing. I mean, a couple things, but like keeping things in front of him. You know, that defense is going to keep things in front of him. You know, the matchup against Jaden Reed is huge. That's one I can't wait to see with Cooper DeJean. The pass rush, you know, the way they've gotten after groups in the middle, you got to feel really good about that. Like Milton Williams has played his ass off this year. You talk about like even the depth guys for that group have played well. I think when you talk about the run game, the edges have to be great for the Eagles. I think they can be. You know, Josh Sweat's a veteran player. Nolan Smith has set really hard edges this year. I think they're going to have to get in some five down to stop the run at times. Swarming Josh Jacobs and hitting Jordan Love. I don't want to make this a fancy breakdown. Like that's what it's going to come down to, right? Like Jordan Love, you talk about a guy who left the game last week with an elbow. There are some areas of a quarterback's body where if he's hurt and you hit him there, it looks dirty, right? Like if you say like guy's got an ankle, let's go test that ankle out. Like the way to test that ankle out is to rush the guy, right? Make him move, that sort of thing. But this guy's got a throwing elbow issue, right? That's in the strike zone. You know, you got to get a piece of this guy. You got to hit this guy. You got to land maybe not directly on this guy, but you got to test him out, man. See how he's feeling this week. It's just the reality. I'm not saying be dirty, but what I am saying is like there's an extra emphasis on hitting the quarterback this week. And, you know, I want to find out how healthy he is, man. Like when you leave a game the week before, like that's a fair question. And, you know, like the Eagles are going to have to keep the explosives down. But the only way I see them losing this game is if Jalen turns the ball over or if Josh Jacobs runs rampant all over him. Like, and I don't know what you think about the probability of those things happening, but I personally don't think the probability is high. I think they're going to be ready to play. I think they're going to be rested, and I think it comes down to that. A.J. Brown expected to play, been dealing with a knee. There was some stuff that popped up in practice this week. I wouldn't worry about it. They also get Goddard back, don't they? So that's something big that they've been missing from their offense. Also, Dallas Goedert's a good blocker. You know, like you talk about having him in the core, like that makes a big difference. You know, you don't want Calcaterra to be your point guy, right? Like you can get in 12 personnel and actually run the football and do it with precision and manipulate, you know, who's at the point of attack better than you can when he's not on the field. So I feel good about this game for the Eagles. Tom Brady's on the call. This feels like, you know, the big Fox game. This is going to be awesome. And two great franchises with huge fan bases. This is going to be a killer game.
Devonta Smith was he's not practicing today because of back tightness, but he is still expected to play on Sunday.
It's burn the ships time, man. It's burn the ships time, man. And so all these guys are going to be playing. They're going to be doing the best they can.
Dog. To what do you attribute the slow starts? Do we not have a good script?
Well, it's obviously the script.
We need a better script.
I mean, it's obviously the script, but my question is, like, what about the script? Like, I'm not exactly sure. You know, like, I could go down the line individually on each game and go through their first couple possessions and give you the reasons that they're not putting drives together. But I think at times they've been wasteful. Like, I wouldn't want to see them be wasteful in this game. I don't want to see them on 2nd and 8 take a shot and set up 3rd and long. Stay out of 3rd and long. You know, you got to like your matchups. Jair Alexander's down. Like, I'm not saying you're afraid to throw the football. This offensive line is going to be locking these guys up, right? Like talk about who's their Pro Bowl rusher, Rashawn Gary. Lane's going to take care of that. You know, the guys in the middle aren't going to get bullied. Jordan Mailata's on the other side, right? The guys you got to watch for in this defense are in the middle of the field. Cooper, linebacker, playmaker. McKinney, safety, playmaker. Got to watch those guys, man. Otherwise, you got to make throws outside the numbers, and you got to be able to run the football. And I think they're going to be able to do that. So, hey, listen, you want to be this team that's talked about like a Super Bowl team. You know, you've got to make the tough plays outside the numbers, and I think they can in the passing game. But Jalen has to be sharp. He has to be sharp. And, you know, saying that, I'm not like saying I'm worried. All these quarterbacks have to be, because one bad quarter, one bad throw, you know, one misread early in the game, and the field position flips, and all of a sudden, like, Josh Jacobs is running the football, and there's a world where you're down in this game, and all of a sudden, like, it's antsy in the link. And that's when playing at home can be tough in the playoffs, is if you don't get off to a good start, you kind of feel the energy going the other way. So they got to start fast, to your point. Got to shed the bullshit. Got to avoid wasteful downs. If I get the ball first in this game, I'm going to run the ball until they stop it. And I'm going to go quick game. And I'm going to go outside the numbers, and I'm going to test these young guys that have to step up and play meaningful snaps outside with things like RPOs and check their eyes, check the eye discipline. And you take your shots on 2nd and short. Okay? I just don't want to see any like, hey, fuck it, it's 3rd and 9 now if we don't hit this 40-yard shot. Like, that to me is the wasteful shit I want to see them stay out of.
Christian Watson and Jair Alexander, you figure the chances of an upset improve dramatically. Those two guys out, it's going to be an uphill climb.
That's an uphill climb. A guy like Dontavian Wicks has to win a lot of matchups, right? Like, if you're a Packers fan, you want to see this team win, like, somebody like Wicks has to step up big. You know, like, you know, when the Eagles man up, and they will, guy like him has been a good man separator. Guy like Jaden Reed, like, those matchups are huge. And don't forget Romeo Doubs, who I think he has elite wide receiver moments. I don't think he's in that category, but he has moments where you're like, man, his skill set. So, again, I don't think shots are going to do it for Green Bay. They have to commit to running the football. And, of course, the motion, man. Like, there's so much cheap motion with this group. There's so much with your eye discipline. I feel pretty good about Zach Bond and these guys in the middle. You know, but you also have younger guys like Nakobe Dean who's stepped up big. But on early downs, your eyes have to be good with this group, seriously, because when they're at their best, they get you running sideways, they get you setting the edge, they get you. But hey, they're out the back, they're moving the pocket, they're taking a shot. You know, it's a tight end at the intermediate level. Like, you really have to have good eyes playing them.
Green Bay 5-3 on the road this year. Not a bad record.
No, they're
the implication.
Yeah, no,
not a bad road record. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out a way to get up to that game, because after I told my kids last night that we're not going to the Rams game, it was like the end of the world. And I was like, at least our house isn't on fire, guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Seriously. Our friend Bo's going to be at that game. That Birds game.
Bo's going to the Birds game?
Yep. He's also going to the Kelsey late night show tonight. So if you're watching that show later, you might see some Bo.
You know that whole thing about us having to jump out of an airplane and do the static line jump?
Yeah.
I found like a YouTube short of somebody who had to pull their reserve chute, and I sent it to him last night.
Sent it to Bo?
Yeah.
It's probably
trying to scare the shit out of him.
He probably is scared.
I'm scared. I'm scared. I shouldn't be watching this shit.
Yeah, you shouldn't have looked it up in the first place. But also, like, how cool is that? I survived a jump while having to throw my second chute. Like, that's badass.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Somebody else can have that.
Bo can have that. You can have.
Seriously, you get up there, they open the door, and I was watching the guy in like fucking fatigues is like, go! There's no like.
That's how it is in Orange County, Virginia, as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
But in Orange County, if you're like, I can't.
Well, they opened the door for me, and then my head got stuck in the door frame because I'm, all the way up here in the air. And the guy who I'm strapped to, he had to bang my head out the door. Yeah.
How about my wife? I think she loves me. The other night she was like, so wait, you jump alone? I'm like, your husband tells you you're jumping out of he's going to jump out of an airplane, and you're not really listening, are you? Like, because I explained this to you. Like, I'm jumping alone.
Yeah.
It was like she didn't hear it. Because she was like, oh, trip to France. Cool.
Now she's making plans for the future.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Solo jump.
Exactly. Exactly. All right.
So best of luck going to that Eagles game if you guys can swing it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be able to surprise the kids with.
Does everybody have a legend for this wild card weekend?
And maybe I call around and be like,
hey.
Yeah.
Remember me?
Unfortunately, I only have two teams that are eligible. The other one. Can you imagine if the Pats had me back as legend of the game? Boo! No, but like a what?
I don't know about that.
I'm not even.
I think you'd get some love.
Thought that holding call.
You're right. You're right. People forget.
People do forget.
People forget. They really do forget.
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch either. Not on Dave Damashek's watch either.
Yeah.
I texted Dave Damashek this morning.
How's Dave doing?
The
uniformant.
He did. Yeah, he texted me back.
Good.
Yeah.
How's he doing?
He's doing good, but he's out west, so I was checking on him.
Oh, that's
like
nice.
A proper check-in.
He's not a Yinzer.
Isn't he out west?
Yinzer lifer?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, he's out west.
Yeah.
He is a Yinzer, but he's out west.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you hear Big Cat's not from Chicago?
I avoided it like all day yesterday. I was like, all right, let me figure out what this is. That was unlike anything I've ever seen.
Oh my God, dude! I know the guy. I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either. He's trying to beat the charges with that 10-minute clip.
What else do I not know?
I know.
That's crazy.
Newton, Mass.
Well, he was 18 too.
Aren't you glad we don't work at Barstool, where at any moment one of your employees might just start shitting on you online? It's like one of the many perks of working at Greenlight is we don't have enough employees to have infighting, let alone would we be interested in infighting. Golly, don't dox me. Chris is from Santa Monica. All right.
Commanders Bucks down in Tampa Bay.
I think this game comes down to the Bucks being able to run the football.
Bucky ball.
And Marshawn Lattimore's availability, right? Nolan, where is he trending right now?
He's been practicing this week. Dan Quinn said last week he was really close, so I'd be surprised if we don't see him in the game.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Evans is playing.
No designation at all whatsoever.
I think this is going to be must-see TV. Now, the one thing is, like, if you look back at the matchups, you could say, hey, well, Lattimore's gotten the better of that matchup, catches per game, like yards per game, that sort of thing. But Lattimore would rather just get a penalty than let Mike catch the football. So I think shots at Lattimore are going to be part of the game plan. But Jalen McMillan has really come on. And as you mentioned, Nolan, Sangestrill,
Mike, as we know him.
Mike S.
Michigan Mike.
Mike S. Is a little out of position, you would say?
Yeah. I think his home for his career will be in the slot. He's done a good job on the perimeter, but skill set probably lends more to playing closer to the ball.
McMillan, at least 50 yards in his last 5 games.
He's been great.
7 touchdowns over those 5 games.
If Carolina had not found a way to beat Atlanta, Atlanta got the win last weekend, McMillan's the reason they're in the playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, he's really stepped up big in that game. So, I think that's huge. I think also for the Bucs, this is as healthy as they've been in a while. They've had so many injuries. I mean, still missing some guys, but Winfield and Dean coming back, that's a big deal. Is that a certainty? No, you're kind of looking like maybe not.
So with the designations in practice, Winfield was a full participant. Jamel Dean was limited, but both are practicing. I think they're trending towards.
If you're practicing the week of the playoffs, I feel like it takes an act of God to keep you off the field, and so I feel like that really matters. I do think it does come down to the Bucs' ability to run the football. If the Bucs can run the football and control the line of scrimmage, they've got a really good shot to come out of this thing with a win. Both these quarterbacks can run the football. I mean, Jaden Daniels gets a lot of credit, but 2 of the best in the league when it comes to yards per carry. Baker 6.5 yards per carry. Daniels 5.9 yards per carry. Baker has been, and this is one of the biggest emphases of the year for them, was get him moving in the pocket. Not only that, but tucking the ball and running it when he has lanes. That hasn't always been his thing. Throwing on the run, he's been really good, but also tucking the ball and running. I listen to my old teammate Thad Lewis, who's actually, I think, quarterbacks coach down there, former Duke Blue Devil, St. Louis Ram, Miami legend. I think he's from Miami. Thad Lewis was talking about that preseason. We're going to see more Baker on the move, Baker off the spot, Baker tucking the ball and running. In conversion situations, you've got to rush both these guys really well. And the reason I mentioned Baker is because most people say, hey, Jaden, of course, but Baker too. So that's a big one. And I think this game could end up being one of the most exciting of the weekend. I really do. I mean, these two teams have I don't think it was universal to expect either one of these teams to be in the playoffs. I mean, certainly not Washington, but a lot of people wrote Tampa Bay off as an afterthought, even though they've won the division now, 4 years in a row?
Yep.
So,
if
this is what they do. They've been in these spots, and they're a team that, if they're healthy, I think they're one of those teams people don't want to see. And so, yeah, I'm excited for this one.
And a week 1 rematch.
Which things are always different.
Right? I mean, couldn't be more different.
Think about how the Packers and the Eagles, you're trying to break that game down and compare it to week 1. You just can't. And same with this game. Last year, ironically, when C.J. Stroud opened the season against Baltimore and then played Baltimore getting the playoffs, it kind of went the same way. But I think more often than not, these things change. And I can remember, 2018, we played the Saints, and this was in October. We lost by 40 points down there. We go down there in the playoffs, and we have every chance to win that game. We just didn't pull it out. And, but it's one of those things that just reinforces these games change from month to month, and especially when you put a couple months in between. And you've got a rookie quarterback who's learned a lot in that time period. Yeah.
Rookie quarterback who no one's putting him on a not only a rookie of the year list. He's sliding into some of those MVP
No
conversations
question.
as well.
And I think also looking at Jaden Daniels, one of the things I like best about him is he avoids the turnover. Like on the road, in the playoffs, the one thing you can't do is turn the ball over. And I think for him, like taking care of the football is going to be huge. But yeah, this game to me is it's not too complicated. It's if the Bucs can run the football and get their offense going, the Washington Commanders are going to have to win a shootout. And the Eagles game was certainly not the norm for them down the stretch. I mean, the Commanders had they played a sleepy rock fight of a game in New Orleans. The Atlanta game, there were periods where they were in 1st and 20 continually, and they were at home. Like, so avoiding the penalties off of that showing there is huge as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think for a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who everybody wrote off for dead and now is trying to get his name back out there in the head coaching cycle, which might be a little rich, right? And maybe if I was Cliff, I'd try to stay right there for as long as I can.
Well, that's what he said. He said, I think this was the other day or Wednesday, but he said, I'm having a lot of fun where I'm at.
And you know what? Sometimes that's the most important thing. I can't speak to being a head coach in the NFL, but like I can tell you from the outside looking in, I think no less of Cliff Kingsbury that he's not a head coach. I mean, there's some people who are just great coordinators. They're great. Like, look at what Spags has done in Kansas City. He's one of the most highly regarded people in the league, and he's just been like, hey, I'm good where I am. Yep.
Winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Got the best.
And I'm not saying that's where it's going.
Yeah.
But that Terry McLaurin second team All-Pro thing is pretty interesting to me because a lot of people would say he's not really a one. We've talked about this before, right?
Yeah, like a guy on this show.
A guy on this show says he's not really a one. Yeah. And he has drops issues and that sort of thing. But I don't know what game he's watching. But I understand some of the conversation around he's not a top tier one. But the guy's like a one, man, and you talk about like who they might bring in next year.
And not just a one, but like a leader in that.
A leader.
He's probably, one of the most important players from a leadership and team building standpoint in that locker room.
Two other dudes who have been really good of late, Olamide Zaccheaus and Zach Ertz for Jaden Daniels for the most part. Bucks are winless in primetime this year, 0-4 this game Sunday night at 8:30. Is that something or nothing? 0-4 primetime. 3 of those were on the road, but they've only lost 7 games this year. 4 of those standalone at night.
Okay, let's talk about each game. We had Baltimore,
correct,
where they lost Godwin. They were up. They looked like they were going to beat Baltimore. They lost Godwin, threw a pick in the end zone, and then it went the other way. What else? They played
Kansas City.
Cowboys.
Kansas City. They're right there. The Cowboys, they laid an egg in that game.
Atlanta Falcons,
who they just couldn't seem to beat. I was at a concert during that game.
But legitimately, like the sun is not in the sky.
I don't think it's a thing.
It's not a thing.
I mean, for one of them, they're on the road down in Dallas, and I think they played tight. Like, you could tell early in that game that they just were off. Like, and Dallas was playing like it was a Super Bowl, even though Tampa should have been playing like it was a Super Bowl because they were trying to get in the playoffs. I could tell right when Shepard dropped that ball on 4th down, it was going to be a long day because that was my worst gambling weekend of the season. And I had put the whole thing on the Bucks. So I know well that game, and they did not play their best in that game. Kansas City, they're right there at Arrowhead, playing the team that's the number 1 seed in the AFC, and same thing with maybe the hottest team in the AFC, Baltimore. I thought they were right there, and then the game got out from under them when they lost Mike Evans and Godwin the same game.
Yep.
So I don't want to make too many excuses for the group, but listen, if Jaden Daniels can win a damn playoff game with this group, and I'm not saying it's like the Houston group. I think a lot of the people that have been naysaying this guy all year are like, hey, pump the brakes. Like, if he can win this playoff game, pretty damn impressive.
I know it seems like Bucky Irving White will run roughshod because there's no reason to believe Washington can stop the run. But can't you just picture in your head pictures a divisional round of Washington at Philly?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it feels like one of those inevitabilities, right?
Yeah.
But it would be, let's say they don't get the win, the Bucs win. Who's Philly going to probably see in round 2? Let's say LA won.
Then LA.
They'd probably see LA.
Yeah.
LA and or Tampa, like I almost feel better about LA if I'm an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
Tampa just something about the way they played defense, and the defense hadn't changed. The pieces have changed a little bit. I think the key, strangely enough, to beating Tampa and beating them up defensively is getting Vita Vea tired. If you can put together long, sustained drives, right? And that's why I don't think they're going to go for it all. I think they're going to try to be on schedule and wear this group out a little bit. Like, the depth on their defensive line is not great. And the one guy that can really wreck games for them is the guy that's 370 pounds. And although I would like to give him his flowers for his incredible cardio, all things considered, like I would definitely work on just keeping them on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be Tampa at Philly if LA won.
Got it.
LA would go to Detroit. Tampa would go to Philly.
Got it.
Vikings Rams in the last game of our wild card preview set, and obviously we can talk more about that on Monday.
Yeah.
But we talked about a couple other these teams have rematches. This is particularly interesting though because Week 8 the Vikings and Rams played in Los Angeles. Yep. It was a 30-20 victory for the Rams.
Came down to the face mask. Let the Vikings fans tell it. They were going to go 100 yards and win.
The week prior, the Vikings had lost to the Lions 31-29. In Week 18, the Vikings lost to the Lions 31-9.
So you get the Detroit hangover twice in 1 year.
Yep.
And it is a major letdown to not get home field advantage and to show up in that game the way they did. Like, they have one of two choices: that this can ruin their season, or they can get stronger, go to Phoenix, get the win, and if they can win this first game, I feel like the Vikings can go as far as possible. I mean, I don't know if they're going to win a Super Bowl, but to me, it's about them proving to themselves after a game like that they're still the Vikings, right? And especially on the heels of a game where they weren't great in LA, that's lingering in your head too. Like, the Rams passing attack, they kind of got after them, right? And so you talk about the pass rush for the Vikings, the 17 pressures, no sacks for the Vikings in pass rush. The Rams front was the front that really got after them. And so that's the concern. Coming in this game last week, you got kind of embarrassed up front. It's not really all about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold did not play well. Didn't play well. That can be fixed. What doesn't get solved in a week is the offensive line. And ironically, I feel like where their season kind of went sideways in a really subtle way was losing Darisaw, which was a big strike for you against Kevin O'Connell's Coach of the Year candidacy, whether that's fair or not.
I love Kevin O'Connell.
I love Kevin O'Connell too. But arguing over whether or not he should be in the game at the end of the half when they might just be taking a knee backed up on the goal line, it's a freak thing. But when they lost him, I felt like they lost a certain physicality up front. And to me, that's a big worry when you get down to low red. And that really manifested last week. And it manifests in protection too, right? But those guys in the middle in a week are not going to get a lot more stout. They're not going to turn into new players. Kobe Turner, Fisk, who's had a fantastic year, those guys can really ruin the game. And I don't anticipate that they necessarily do. I think the Vikings got something up their sleeve. But, this is a totally different challenge than the challenge you faced last week. Last week, Detroit manufacturing pressure, playing a lot of man, speeding you up. I felt like Sam Darnold had to throw people open last week, which is not what he's done this year. And there's very few NFL quarterbacks who routinely throw people open. Okay. The rest of it is window dressing. It's when you're playing a zone heavy team like the Rams, as the down goes on, if you have more protection, Minnesota's going to win. but are you going to have the protection? It's going to be a totally different challenge. The front four can absolutely wreck this game for the Rams. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think that Rams front, although they struggle in the run game, I don't want to say they struggle in the run game. They're just smaller. Like they line up and play the Eagles, I don't think it's a great matchup for them. We saw that when they played. But they can hang in there against the Vikings in the run game. Aaron Jones in the pass game kind of worries me a little bit if you're the Rams.
Angle route.
Oh, love the angle route.
Wheel route.
Love the wheel route. Love red zone corner.
Mm.
If you play Madden, you play Madden?
Yeah, I like to put Cooper Kupp in the backfield.
Bro. Hey, when I played him the other day or like a week or two ago, it was unbelievable. He was in 2 back sets, and he had Cooper Kupp at running back the whole game.
Well,
the whole game, dude.
It's true.
Well, it's true.
I couldn't figure it out.
And what did I tell you after the game?
You told me in the fourth quarter, like maybe let Cooper Kupp be a wideout.
Maybe move Cooper Kupp around. So if Megan's called, yeah, when you see Cooper Kupp in the backfield, there's only a few routes that he can run.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I lost that game.
You did lose that game.
But I have a couple wins under my belt as well.
You do, but 0 online wins.
Yeah, well, you have 0 in-person wins.
I don't worry about in-person wins.
Okay, well,
that's not how the pros do it.
I don't worry about online. Clearly, I threw 8 picks with Matt Stafford.
8 picks? What I call him? Matt Stafford?
Yeah, Benzo Stafford.
He's not Perk Stafford. He's Benzo Stafford. Anyways, so that's your wild card slate.
Wild card slate, and we'll hear real fast from Airbnb, and then
we will.
We'll sign off for y'all.
What's up, Greenlight fans? It's your boy Dr. Fax, and I want to talk to you about Airbnb. Me and the Greenlight crew, a few years ago, we stayed at Airbnb for the Super Bowl in Arizona, and it was absolutely immaculate. It had a huge cactus in the backyard, had a pool, had enough room for everybody, way better than a hotel. And then recently just purchased a house with my girl, and we found out that we can be hosts. And your house might be worth more than you think, and you can find out at airbnb.com/host.
I said it once, I'll say it again. The best thing to do is take a personal vacation and book your house as an Airbnb and don't tell your family. It's just leave for like 2 weeks, go on a guy's trip, book your house as an Airbnb, and don't tell your family. That's the move. I'm telling you.
And that's why Meg was like, so this is a solo job?
Yeah. All right. Let's end the show by whispering what we think the score will be, because don't hold us to these.
In every game.
We haven't given our picks out yet. Well, no, let's not do that because we got to do picks.
Got to do picks.
No, sorry. You're going to have to watch the picks. That's what we call a cock tease in the industry.
So come back Saturday.
Come back Saturday and watch our picks. We got to tape it right now with Steve, so we got to sign off.
And the last thing you'll hear is from BetMGM.
That's right.
I think Pat Summerall coined the term cock tease back in the 60s.
We're still on. As we get ready for Wild Card Weekend in the NFL this weekend, I want you to picture this. You bet your favorite player's first touchdown score, but he throws a block to send a teammate into the end zone, and you lost your bet, right?
Wrong.
With BetMGM's second chance promotion, you'll get your stake back if your first touchdown scorer scores second. Bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. Keep that in mind next time you throw in a first touchdown score bet with BetMGM. Happy hunting. Y'all take care.
Wow.